Fun.
And Armin Sarya.
Oh, man, I don't know. I hope I can live up to the hype.
Nooners. Hit the guys up on the Pella WI Talk and Text line at 414-799-1973.
Unbelievably fantastic, man. I love to listen to your show.
9 to noon is brought to you by Palermo's. When you want pizza, you want Palermo's. Made right here in Wisconsin for over 55 years. Palermo's, Wisconsin's hometown pizza. Welcome to 9 to noon.
And welcome in. We thought we'd be doing a conference championship preview for the Green Bay Packers. We will not. We will definitely discuss those conference championship games with you. But welcome to Friday. You made it, ladies and gentlemen. We're here, and you're here on 9 to noon with Kuhn, Billy, and Armin for the next 3 hours on the game and our game network of stations. Fellas, I don't mean to be the downer and bring that up right out of the gates, but I truly did. And the more and more I've watched it, the more and more I've thought about it. And I say watched it because you can't really avoid Packers and Niners from the divisional round if you have the NFL Network, and you sometimes go on the NFL Network randomly at like a, I don't know, 4:30 in the afternoon. Hey, I wonder what they got on. Oh, final 6 minutes of the game. Sweet. Go on, after watching a conclusion of a good basketball game. I don't want to poke around. Oh, sweet. It's the tail end of the second quarter of Packers and Niners. I think I've stumbled onto it 7 times already this week. And I've watched it back fully. That doesn't even count the times that I've just touched onto it. And John, every single time I keep seeing it, I keep thinking about how this show could be emanating from Detroit today. And we could be talking about going and thrashing the Motor City Kitties for the second time in 3 games in their second time in their building, third time this year. Damn, that would have been a whole lot of fun. But these games are going to be good on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm fired up for NFC AFC championship matchup. Got a good one in the AFC with Lamar Jackson and the story. Isn't it funny? Everything tells you, if you watch these teams throughout the year, if you really follow what they have done, what they have accomplished, that the Baltimore Ravens should be able to really easily handle business against the Kansas City Chiefs. But when Patrick Mahomes is on one side and Lamar Jackson, who got through a playoff game last week pretty easily against the Houston Texans and their rookie quarterback, you start to think, I don't know. Patrick Mahomes, he just kind of has that magic. One thing that will be said, and I saw this, and what do you guys think of curses and jinx? Do you guys believe in curses
I like them.
and jinx?
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I don't really believe in them. Like, I mean, I know that they're a fun storyline to talk about for games. Like, it's a fun backdrop. People like to say, oh, like the curse, break this, jinx. It's not. I don't
this
think
from the guy that
real.
wears the same thing every Sunday for Packers games.
That's different because I'm doing
exactly.
it.
Okay.
Armin, do you believe in the Myron Cope curse, where teams wipe their behinds with the terrible towel and then they lose and somebody gets hurt?
So I don't like the head. The analytical, like, logic side of me knows none of these things matter. The emotional side of me does all those things just in case. You know what I'm saying? Like, Billy's right. I didn't change my outfit once during Packers games this year.
Do you believe in the deliver the 49ers an L while they score 17 points curse and you lose your starting quarterback the next week? Because that happened 3 times this year.
I did see that one floating around the internet. I do think
Deshaun
that was more
Watson,
of a statistical anomaly.
Kirk Cousins, and Joe Burrow all the next week.
Sniped out.
Right.
And thank God for that one official to stumble his way into the end zone and trip up Lamar and get that off of 17.
He wouldn't be here.
Otherwise, he wouldn't be here. No, we'd be watching Snoop Huntley in the AFC Championship game against Pat Mahomes.
Snoop Huntley. I love when they said
so. You don't believe it?
It's not real, but it's a fun part of sports. Like, we never, you don't. Baseball players don't touch the line. They don't step on the line, stuff like that.
Do you believe in the Josh Allen curse? Beat Josh Allen in the playoffs, lose the next week. It's happened each of the last 4 years.
Because I do believe in the Madden curse, which Josh Allen, you would have thought, fell victim to this year, but actually had a pretty damn good year, top 5 in MVP balloting.
Haven't other players disproved the Madden curse? The Madden curse was supposed to take you out for the year, I thought.
I think every curse has been disproved, unless it doesn't happen yet. Then,
out for the year or a severe down year, right? Like Lamar had his right after the MVP, and then it was like, oh, wait, he misses the last 5 games. He was kind of out and down less than what he has been. Like, there have been plenty of guys
it's just generic. It's just like it could be a drop off in production. It doesn't have to be.
I cannot believe I would have bet a large sum of money that you would not come in here being the Demi Downer on funny internet curses.
This is the
like
curse.
That is
these
the biggest upset
curses,
I could have imagined here today.
And curses are real until they're not. Each of the last 4 years, go look it up. whoever
Okay.
beat the Bills to move on, they lost the next week. Whether it's the
that's-
Chiefs, whether it's the Bengals, it doesn't matter. Whoever beat them has lost the next week. This is 5 years in a row. If the Chiefs can't go get past the Baltimore Ravens, which again, I'll repeat, anybody that's watched the Ravens this year and anybody that's watched the Chiefs this year understand that the Ravens have been more explosive.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Ravens have been more consistent. And what's a strong spot of the Chiefs? It's their defense. Well, the
Mhm.
Ravens have had a better defense.
Better.
So everything tells you that they should win this game. And they're cursed.
Okay, it's not a curse is like supernatural. I don't believe in that. Now, what you're saying
Are
could
there
be
any
tr-
curses that are still alive?
well, what you're saying could be true if there's like a trend. There can be trends in sports all the time.
The curse of the Bambino,
Streaks.
that's been fixed.
That was killed. Yeah, that
No,
was
the
killed in
Reds-
pretty
the-
dramatic
the Re-
fashion.
Yeah, the Red Sox won. So what happened to these curses that ended? The supernatural curse just decided to take a nap and said,
No, you had to
well,
finish. You had to finish it in dramatic fashion.
Right.
How did the Red Sox have to break the curse of the Bambino?
by winning.
They had not
Come back
winning.
from
Come
0-3.
down 3-0
Okay.
down in dramatic fashion and hit a grand slam in Game 7 in the building. You got to
Right.
do it in grand fashion. Don't
That
act like
was-
this
yeah.
stuff
So how
doesn't
could it be a
actually
curse?
tie
How
in
could it-
together.
So it's not like people always like, oh, this team is cursed. This team is cursed. No, you just can't. You just got to win. You're just not good enough to win. Doesn't mean they're cursed. Sorry if am I putting cold water on? Am I a wet blanket today?
Is there any
on the whole
curse?
Well,
fun
that's
thing?
not a question. That,
Are there
that's
any
a fact
curses
for
that are
sure.
still around that you still believe in? Is the curse of the goat still a thing?
No, I mean
No,
they
it
ended
wasn't.
up winning the World
Cubs,
Series for the Cubs.
The Cubs.
I didn't know who the goat
That
curse
was a
I
totally-
just remember hearing about the goat
That,
curse.
that was a totally manufactured curse anyway. That wasn't a real curse like the Bambino curse. That
Oh,
was
it wasn't real.
Well,
That was a
they're
lie.
not-
You're
none
telling
are
me
real.
the goat was a lie. There was no goat.
There
In
was a
fact,
goat,
they
but
ate the goat.
you
They
can't
never
just-
walked the goat.
you-
They were eating gyros at the game. They never actually had the goat in the building.
Well, Chicago, so they're probably eating like what? Italian beef or Polish sausage. It was some guy that wanted to bring his goat into the game. They wouldn't let him. So he says, I'm putting a curse on you. You can't just decide
Curse
to put a
lasted
curse.
71 years from 1945 to 2016 during Game 4 of the 1945 World Series at Wrigley Field when William Cineas brought his goat Murphy
Yeah.
and was apparently bothering other fans. So a pair
Well,
asked them to leave.
Armin says it's a lie.
Apparently, it wasn't
It's
a
not
real
a lie.
thing.
It's just not like they lost because they weren't good. They lost because they weren't good enough. Okay.
You
I'm
don't
sorry.
think there's anything supernatural about give up 8 runs in the 8th inning of the Steve Bartman situation?
Yeah, I do think there's something supernatural. It's that your
Oh,
defense
okay.
can't catch the ball. I think that's what's supernatural about it. You can't get outs.
So you don't believe in momentum in sports?
No,
then?
I believe in momentum. That's totally different. That's a human emotional thing. It's not a curse. To me, a curse by definition is like a supernatural thing. Like there's a power, a higher.
It can also be a
power.
mental block. It can also be a
Yes,
thought of a
100%.
hurdle.
Okay,
That's
so
it can
what-
also be
I
something
agree
that gets
with
I
you
don't
brought
think
up in
that
the
is
middle of
It's
the week.
listen. The curse is not some sort of fourth dimension being that is. You got a home run going over the wall, just all of a sudden drops out of the air. You know,
It's caught
That's
by
not-
a-
All right,
that's
fine.
not
Sure.
the curse. The curse is something that sticks around and you can't overcome because you know what? When you're up 4-3 and a team hits a home run in the 8th, you start thinking the damn curse got us again. And then
Okay,
you go at bat in 9th inning and you miss every time.
Well, I believe in that. Okay, so I believe in sports psychology and things. I don't think of that as a curse. I guess would be my answer to that.
So you don't like the word curse, is what
He
this
doesn't
really is.
Well, I just don't really. I don't think something is like you're telling me if I was an athlete, which I'm not. Okay.
No, you were. Are
Well,
you kidding me? You were. We
not
just
really.
talked about how you're the only Olympian on this radio station.
Okay,
And
fine.
yeah.
Yesterday.
Fine. So let's say I am like
Yeah,
if someone told
three-time
me-
silver medalist in the
Okay.
American or Armenian American National Tennis
youth
Championships.
tennis. So if someone told me, Armin, you're cursed from
Sounds
winning
like
this
a pretty
tournament.
remarkable accolade to me. I
I
don't know
know.
why
The
you're
more
diminishing
you-
that.
the more
So
you
you're
have
telling
to
me
say-
I should have believed in a curse. You're telling me I should have believed in a well, no.
Sounds like you were kind of cursed
So
from
like-
holding the
like,
gold
I-
medal, but
I-
that was just me.
I took the silver 3 times. I never won. I've lost in the finals. You should. This was like the curse of Armin losing in the finals.
Did you choke in 2 of them?
I didn't play well enough to win.
Did you play your worst game?
One of them, I'd say I was totally outclassed in one of them. The guy was better. I was never going to win. The other one, I was pretty much the worst player.
Did you have
The
a lead
third
late
one,
in the game?
The third one, I had a lead
Match,
late in the third set. I blew it.
That was the third one, huh?
Yeah, that was the one.
That was the third year.
So was that a curse?
So it was starting to mount in your mind of, damn, I'm never going to get over this
But
hump.
I don't. That
I'm
would
never going to get past
that
this.
would be a weak excuse if I said I
Did you
was
lose to
cursed.
the same guy every time?
No.
Okay,
but
then
the
it
guy-
was a curse.
But wait, the guy I
Then it was
lost.
a curse.
The guy I lost to in the finals, I played like a total of 6 times in my career, and we split like back and forth. So I didn't lose to him in the finals, but I lost to him other times. So it was a curse, you're telling me. But
So you beat him in the finals.
I beat him in semis other years. I beat him, or like I beat
but
him
he
in
beat
early
you
rounds.
in the finals.
Correct.
Because you couldn't get over the hump in the finals because of the curse.
The
I agree with you.
Armenian American
Except for the curse
championship match, Kurt. It was the Armenian American National Championship Junior Tennis
Olympics.
curse.
You know what hurt? You know what killed me too? Is the year I lost to him in the third set was my best shot to win, and it was here in Milwaukee. That's what killed me about it. It was at home.
You had him at home and you
I had
couldn't
him-
finish.
I had him up 3-1.
You had him on a home court.
On
You
the-
couldn't even get it done.
On the
So you were the
McKinley-
Buffalo Bills.
on the
It
McKinley
was
Park
your
tennis
surface,
courts.
and you couldn't take care of business.
McKinley Park tennis courts downtown.
What was his name?
Anto, good friend of mine. Anto is short for Antranig in Armenian. Anto.
On
Toe. We
I
call
thought
him
it was
Toe.
short for
Anto.
Mahomes.
and auto.
Good
414-799-1973.
If you're out there, Anto, good dude. Good
Yeah,
friend.
well, listen, we're about to embark on the offseason, or as certain imaging on 97.3 the Game network of stations have pushed out the new season. All right. This is the new season for the Green Bay Packers because we're going to start talking about everything that's happening, their new coordinator, their new player acquisitions. But we're embarking in on a little bit of a dead period. What was young man's name? Anto?
Anto, yeah.
He's going to be a guest on this radio
Maybe-
program.
maybe he will
we're going to
be.
have to, at some point, relive the thriller in the mill that you ended up choking away over there on 56th and
He'll
Lane.
Did you
say
just say
something
the
like-
Thriller in the mill?
Yeah.
the thriller in
That
the
is-
mill.
The Thriller in the mill. All right, so
The
close.
thrill in the mill.
I was in the middle of it. And I'm like, the mill, that probably doesn't make any more sense.
Well, yeah.
Trying to
I
fit
mean,
Greenfield in there, and it didn't fit with anything.
You
It's
know,
like rhyming with orange.
if I embrace the idea of curses more, I could use that as an
The curse of
excuse.
Conkle Park is really what it was
Yeah,
for you, not
like-
being able to get over the hump
Not, yeah.
on Leighton Ave.
Oh man, Conkle Park. Yeah. Anyway, that would be like my great excuse because I could absolve my own bad play and just say it was the curse. I couldn't help it. I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't my fault. I missed those shots. It was the curse, right?
The curse of wide right is the only reason why the Buffalo Bills
Well.
potentially are not in this game. And
Yeah, it
Some-
is Freaky Friday. I gotta say that, right?
dude, but John, now I've been trying and I've dug up here in the last 5 minutes. So I've been filibustering and
Are there
needling and
any
arming.
that are good? Are there any that are still withstanding?
Not that I can see that are withstanding,
Damn.
but the Bills one is
Bill-
fascinating.
Yeah, Bill.
I love a
Because-
good curse.
Not only have you then lost the next week, but you beat the Bills, you lose in somewhat dramatic fashion, right? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, last year it's the Bengals when you kind of think they ended up having it. They were going to be able to get over the hump in overtime, and then they never got the ball back because
Yeah.
of the unsportsmanlike conduct. And the Chiefs up 21-3 against the Bengals the year before in the AFC title game and choke it
Mhm.
away. Like,
Yep.
these AFC title games have given us some thrillers. I think it's going to be the same this weekend. Although everything on the chart, everything on the stats, everything that you've watched for the last 20 something weeks of football tells you Baltimore's going to win this thing by 10, right? Like, I mean, like they're going to open this thing up late, run the ball on them. Kansas City's kind of banged up. William Gay might not play. He's kind of their designated spy. But damn, I'm going to put something down by 2:00 on Sunday. This is one of the latest that I have really no lean at this point. It is a coin flip situation of if I lay the 4 with Baltimore or if I'm taking it with Kansas
Well,
City.
you were so excited to get points in Buffalo.
yeah, I
you
was
had
fired up. Yeah,
you had
yeah.
But
Yeah,
you had
definitely.
less confidence in Josh Allen in Buffalo than you do in Lamar. Because
By far.
But Lamar's only 2-3 in the playoffs, right? 2-3 in the playoffs, total career. So
Yeah.
Lamar's had his own issues. I don't want
Mhm.
to say a curse, but he's had his own issues in the playoffs. So that's a big beast to slay, is Mahomes and the Chiefs and all that. I don't know. I'm less confident in their ability just to walk
The
through.
difference, Armin, in my
Yeah.
opinion, the difference is that year he won the MVP with his 50 total touchdowns. They didn't have that defense they have right now.
Mhm.
They didn't have linebackers running around the middle of the field ready to break necks, literally on the football field with a shot. Anytime they can hit somebody, they're going to hit somebody. I think it's going to be harder for Isaiah Pacheco to be able to run the football against this team. He had great success against the Buffalo Bills. The Chiefs did a great job of getting the Bills in nickel and being able to find the small guy on the field and run and target him. I don't know now that they put that on film if they're going to be able to do that against the Buffalo Bills. I think the Bills will be ready for that. And I think whatever the adjustment is, their linebackers will be able to adjust to that. Plus, they have Hamilton in the back end, who's just been absolutely balling as of late. So, I mean, that defense in Baltimore, as everybody talked about Cleveland all year long, that defense in Baltimore ended up just quietly going under the radar until they put the squadouche on the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins high-powered offenses in back-to-back weeks.
They're also one of the teams that you would categorize by the way that they've played in 23, the Ravens being that, as kind of front runners because they haven't played from behind, right? They've just been on people from the start and really haven't given you any opportunity. I think they've trailed for a total of something ridiculous, like 150 minutes or something like that. If it's even that much, like it is a very minute amount of time that they've spent trailing in football games this year. If Kansas City gets on them early, takes the Packers approach, get the ball, we're going to take the ball, we're going to go try to score. Maybe you put some heat on, maybe you create that doubt, but yeah, that year when they had the number 1 seed and they lost to Tennessee in their own building on that Saturday night, there were a couple turnovers in there. There was a tight end taken, I believe, Jonnu Smith, like a corner route, 65 yards almost to the crib. Like, it was a wild night. It might take something like that for Pat Mahomes and company to pull the upset there. The nightcap, though, I have been very in on the Lions all week long. And now I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about my Motor City Kitties, because you want to talk about a curse, John. It's not a curse because they've won games like it, but it is definitely a trend that Jared Goff outside is a much different quarterback than he has been indoors. I think they've only played like 2 games outdoors. They've lost both since October. And he did not look good in Chicago when they ended up taking an L. Second time in 3 weeks. They played them in the middle of November.
So it's the outside curse for
him. The outside deal for him, where I think he's got 5 touchdowns to 4 picks. The numbers are pedestrian. Completion percentage is at like 61, 62%. But then again, damn, it's going to be like 67 and sunny. If there's ever a day to play outside and make it feel like Ford Field, where we don't have the lady from Tampa Bay asking the coach about weather conditions in San Francisco, no issue in Santa Clara this week. But I am still just a little bit nervous about the team that I've been pretty confident in all week long in the Motor City Kitties.
Yeah, I think this one's going to turn out to be a wild game, because everything that I ever felt about Jared, and I've watched Jared Goff in person a lot. In fact, I played against Jared Goff when I was still playing, and I always had the same impression watching him. I'll tell, he's just kind of okay. But then you watch the guy when you're on the field, and you just start to see he's not like a loud, fiery leader, but he does all the things right that you want him to do. If you get to him, if you hit him, he can't make plays happen like Patrick Mahomes, like Lamar Jackson, but he's one of those guys that if he has time in the pocket, if he has the ability at the beginning of the play, pre-snap, to get the playoff, and that'll be a big thing for me as I watch their offense. How are they getting to the line of scrimmage? Are they getting to the line of scrimmage with 15 seconds left on the play clock? Is he able to can to the right play? Is he able to get them out of a run if they drop a safety down in the box? When he does those things, when he's put in those positions to succeed, he succeeds. Jared Goff is a very impressive quarterback to that nature, and he does it without a lot of frills. He's got some weapons there now on the outside, especially with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who I think is just going to give the 49ers absolute fits trying to cover him. I think the Lions and the 49ers, I think this game is going to go right down to wire. This is going to be a fantastic couple games on Sunday.
I know people talked about Goff, but I thought the Packers, for what they were able to do, exposed a little bit of the run defense for the Niners. Lions run the ball really well. I don't know. I think that might be one way to
I think so.
Get them.
We have the first of, I would think, many potential defensive coordinator interviews in Green Bay. Our own Matt Schneidman has the story. We'll bring you the name next, and we'll open up the phone lines at 414-799-1973, because many people are going to want to react to this one. It's 9 to noon with maybe the new name for the defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers in 24 next on The Game.
So how this shit turned into Freaky Friday, but we got no choice but to turn this sideways. I can't believe that it's Freaky Friday. It's Freaky Friday. I'm in Chris Brown's body.
Welcome back. It's 9 to noon, and many people already on the talk and text line, which is 414-799-1973, jumping the route and asking us to discuss the name that is breaking within the last couple of minutes as the first to interview for the Packers defensive coordinator job. Oh, get the pitchforks ready. As our friend Matt Schneidman, along with Diana Rossini of The Athletic, reporting.
Man, they are good friends. She had this yesterday.
Yeah.
She had this yesterday, and she told him, hey, you can't let this go until after I fire the shot.
She
I will
embargoed
shoot
it.
the flare in the morning. She did. She told him
She
yesterday.
embargoed it.
Not stealing anyone's scoops. He's sharing the scoop with Diana. Former Chargers head coach Brandon Staley is interviewing for the Packers' vacant defensive coordinator position today.
Well, there you go. That's the name everyone wanted to hear, right? Brandon Staley. Excited? Not excited? No, I know how fans are going to react to this. Here we go again with the same guy, a guy that's all you're gonna hear is
like Nooner Owen when he said, can we discuss the fact that the Packers are now interviewing Brandon Staley when we just got rid of a Staley product in Joe Barry? Come on, Owen and Jackson. That's just one of many that are going along on that line, that they are the same guy running the same defense, John.
So fans just want an aggressive or more aggressive defense, John? Is that it? Is that just the natural course of being a fan? You think good defenses are always aggressive?
Yeah, I mean, you think that the best defense is attacking and gets sacks, or the quarterback is under pressure all the time and you're playing man defense on the back end and you're intercepting every pass, and it sounds good, right? And you want pressure, you want interception, you want all these things, but they want to do it in kind of an intimidating way. Zimmer is intimidating when he walks 7 and 8 up to the line of scrimmage. Doesn't always work. Not always top, defensive coordinator in the league or anything like that. Here's the deal. Yeah, Brandon Staley, is he the Budweiser to Joe Barry's Bud Light, right? Is that the case? I don't know. We don't know. I'm not exactly sure 100% what Brandon Staley's defense is going to look like. I know it'll have the same front. I know it'll have the same personnel. So to that extent, the Packers players should seamlessly be able to roll into the style of defense that he has. But, as much as we talk about how great that Rams defense was the year that he was defensive coordinator, because he has experience being defensive coordinator.
Yes.
He's done it exactly 1 year in the NFL. And in that 1 year, he was first in yards against and first in points against. So he is batting 1,000 as a defensive coordinator, first in yards, first in points. I would like to remind people that he did have Aaron Donald Defensive Player of the Year that year.
Fair.
On his team.
Yep. And maybe Jalen Ramsey on the outside, but yeah,
Jalen Ramsey on the outside.
Yep, it helps. But John, it was the track record that continually was thrown at Joe Barry throughout it. So let's make sure that we throw this one on out here, because they will just say, oh, it's the same guy. It's the same guy. They're 20. I think I'll check here. Brandon Staley, 41 years old. They're about 20 years difference in age. Now, this is not to be an ageist situation, but that might help, right? They're clearly not the same human being. They also haven't worked together. Their paths have crossed, right? Like, because LaFleur coaches here in 19. That's when Staley leaves as the outside linebackers coach in Chicago, goes to Denver for a year, then to the Rams for a year, and then he's the hottest name on the market with the Chargers as the head coach. So, like, they have guys that are, close-knit. They've obviously known each other. But Staley is 2 years away removed from being the hottest name around. And I think people will look at what he did with the Chargers, and those numbers will maybe not be as glowing. But to me, John, it was more about the head coaching job being too big for him. That then, as you're trying to change and make sure that you become a better head coach and everything that goes around with being a head coach, then the defense lacks, right? Like, I don't know. I'm interested for it. And it's clearly something where LaFleur will respect his opinion. And if he's running the same scheme, say, hey, man, what could you do with the players we have in this scheme? Might as well know that information from somebody else before you go and start interviewing a bunch of different schemes, right? Like, this is some more background information on what he could do with your similar scheme, but differently.
Well, and that's why you got to be careful. Like, you can't just come on the air and call a guy a dipstick when he gets fired from a job because he might soon just become your dipstick, right? I mean, it's the truth. This is why I try not to. This is why, maybe Zabe did it yesterday morning. I don't know, but this is why he try and keep
someone
these
from
things
6 to
quiet.
9. Yeah,
I mean, because it makes too much sense. It's the same personnel. It's kind of the same fronts. It's somewhat the same with the way that they run their secondary. And he did have 1 year of experience doing this, and in that 1 year, he was very, very good. And some people will point to it, and if they want to say glass half empty, they're going to say, well, he did have the defensive player of the year on his team. He did have a guy on the outside that was in his prime locking people down, right? So there was some stuff to it. It wasn't, a lot of people say it's a player's game, and he does have the accolades for the defensive coordinator position. Listen, here's the deal, though. You would think, and even with all the jobs of a head coach, when I interviewed Matt LaFleur for the first time I interviewed Matt LaFleur, I asked him in his first year coaching, and this was before he ever coached a game. So, how's being a head coach? What is it like? Is it what you expected? He told me, and this is honest to God fact, he was amazed with how much the head coaching job was not actually about coaching. He's like, I spend more time doing stuff that has nothing to do with breaking down film, creating plays, and game planning. He's like, that's all I want to do. I want to break down film. I want to game plan. I want to install with the players, and then I want to coach on the field. And he's like, the majority of my job is not that. So you can understand when a guy like Brandon Staley, who had immense success in his one season as a defensive coordinator, struggled compartmentalizing what it takes to be a head coach with a defensive coordinator. Now, did he have the same talent on the Chargers? Well, they got some big names on the Chargers. They got some big names,
yeah.
They got some big old names on the Chargers. And I would like to think that in 3 years, he would have had 1 year where that defense was better than 20th in anything.
That would help.
You would like to think so. And I think Packer fans have not had an attacking, what they feel like is a successful attacking, aggressive defense for so long that they sort of fetishize that in their head and say, man, I wish we could just fly around, blitz every play. That's just not reality in the National Football League.
So let's get Armin, give me a fly around defense. Just pick them. Any year, any era, give me a fly around defense.
85 Bears, let's just say
You're not going to do it because
Right.
teams will just get you out of Bear defense in 2 seconds.
Right.
The league is all about passing and personnel matching now. Teams hardly get an opportunity to run a bear front, and even if they do now, it's just a nickel 52. It's not a true bear. So go ahead, next team.
The Ray Lewis Ravens, those type of teams, those type of defenses.
Now, a Ray Lewis defense had Ed Reed on the back end,
Right,
had
right.
Ed Reed in the middle, and had the early one had Tony Saragusa up front. And those were old school 3-4s. The early Ray Lewis defenses, they were old school 3-4s where they had a huge nose that you sometimes had to block with 2 people, a center guard and a fullback on the same play. That let the linebackers run free. Again, I will say this, and I don't know how much they'd be able to run true 3-4. Terrell Suggs on the outside.
Yep.
Right? They're going to get you in the sub. They're going to make you run a little bit more. That's a defense that I think would work. But, man, I just told you, 2, potentially 3 Hall of Famers on that defense. Hall of Famers, not Pro Bowlers, Hall of Famers.
So great players
Right.
are often the difference. Great
Give
players are
me another defense.
Let's
You're
say
missing
the
one.
Seahawks from like 12, 13, that era.
Yeah, they weren't attacking. They were anything but attacking.
Right, they
that was a
weren't.
33 buzz defense. They sat back and they would get pressure with 4 guys sometimes because they had Michael Bennett playing really good on the inside and Bruce Irvin pretty hot on the outside. But they weren't about pressure. They were about being in coverage lanes and making you. They had more coverage sacks than what they had pressure. So when you talk about, they ran the same defense every single play, same defense. So when it doesn't work, what are you going to say? That defense doesn't work.
But I wonder if most fans realize that.
They're
or think
not
about
attacking.
that.
You said
They're
attacking.
Not, I know they're not. I'm saying I think fans think about that and say we must have an aggressive defense to
I
be
think
good.
dominating defense means aggressive.
But that's not the case.
Let me give you maybe the most aggressive defense in the history of the NFL, because Ray Lewis's defense were good, but they were just good. They weren't necessarily aggressive. I'm going to give you the most aggressive defense in NFL history. And I'm talking about the Steelers. From about 2002 to about 2011. Okay. And do Do you realize the linebackers they had on that team? They had Joey Porter, Clark Higgins, or James Ferrier. James Harrison was a backup. He didn't even start on that team to begin with. Larry Foote. And they just attacked them. They blitzed them from all different angles. But you know why they could do that? Because Troy Polamalu was on the back end, and he covered about 70 yards on any given play. That's why they were able to do it. So you want this attacking defense. You need the parts to be an attacking defense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. I think a lot of times it's about that. I think a lot of times in the modern era too, the most successful defenses aren't necessarily super aggressive. They're ones that can get pressure with the front four, and that's been the playbook for a lot of these defenses, is to be able to prevent big plays in the back end and create big play prevention.
We were the first ones on the cover 2 shell. The whole league is running more cover 2 shell, and the reason that is because the league now, the best teams have quarterbacks that they think can win them football games. For years, we had Aaron Rodgers. We believed he would win us a football game. So our job was to sit in a 2 shell and make teams work really hard to get down there. And then when the field zone shrinks, when you get in the red zone, then you can start playing a little tighter because you're in a shorter field. That's the literal definition of bend but don't break. Bend all the way down there, and then when you get in tighter field zones, you don't break and you make them kick field goals. You do that with a good quarterback, you win 10 football games a year, and that gives you a shot in the playoffs. And the Packers believe they have that quarterback again in Jordan Love, and that's why I believe the Packers will do a very similar defense to what we've seen around here for many, many years.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I just don't. I know fans won't be happy about it until it produces. They're going to say it's too soft, not aggressive enough. I just know that that's going to be what we hear, but that's what a lot of defenses want to do now, is exactly what you said, John, is and then a lot of analytics to it. Prevent big plays, force teams to spend a lot of time, energy, and plays to try and get down the field. Right, make them beat you.
414-799-1973. Couple from a couple Erics. Only Packer fans want to fire a guy before he's hired. That's Eric in the Prairie.
That's exactly it.
Makes sense. And then there's Eric in Waukesha contradicting thought. What did you just say? Staley? Are we bleeping stupid? Oh, yeah. Hot reaction on both sides of the equation.
Hey, guys, if he's a dipstick, he's going to be our dipstick. Let's all calm down here. I think we should give him a shot. One time. He did D coordinator one time. He was first in both yards and points.
People are thinking of him as what he did as a head coach.
I mean,
that's what people are reacting to right now, not as a defensive coordinator.
Lumberjack
difference.
Lumberjack Pete said we do have a curse that's still alive. The Zabe dipstick curse.
Zabe? It's always Zabe's fault.
Could just be it. 414-799-1973. Some time for you to react before Matt Schneidman shares his insight with us in 20 minutes. It's 9 to noon on the game. Get to a couple of calls here in just 1 second, but one of my favorite parts about the Talk and Text line is where we can line up different texts that we've gotten from the same number. Like this one in the 715 that sends us, Packers were 4th in points allowed this year. I don't know that number's exactly right, but okay. Next text from the same 715 number. Packers were 4th in NFC in points allowed this year. Okay, getting a little bit better. Next one.
Different.
Looking back at it, the offense and defense were not in sync first part of the season until late. Then they were pretty good. Agree? I think we can all agree on that one. Next text in from him. Who is this? What? You texted us. Next one. When the offense was struggling, the defense held the line, though. So, doesn't know who it is, but we just want to talk to Packers, and I got some damn takes to get off.
Yeah, and I like his takes. And it's why I said, hey, I thought Joe Barry earned his job back. I absolutely did.
Yeah.
It turned out Malafleur didn't feel that way. And that little, it's crazy. You won 7 of your last 9 rolling into San Francisco, which means you won 7 of your last 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
7 of your last 10 games. And that was the time when you thought, I need to change my defensive coordinator. You didn't think it when you were 2-5, when the offense was struggling and the defense was keeping you in every single ball game because they allowed 19 in Denver and 17 in Las Vegas and then 22 or whatever it was in Pittsburgh. Then it wasn't a thing because the defense was keeping you in those games. But when your offense got fancy and started scoring some points and the defense was the one struggling at that point in time, not to mention Jair was missing games, Devondre was missing games, Quay was missing games. I mean, we had a lot of things going on.
Douglas was already gone.
But all said and done, it was 3 years of, hey, we never were dominant for a whole year. We might have been dominant in stretches. And in fact, Joe Barry's best work was always done in the biggest games. That's the one thing I'll remember Joe Barry for, being very hated, even while his defenses played the best in the biggest games. That's when Joe Barry's defenses were at their absolute best in crunch time. And I'll say this. So now if you're going to move away because you need a dominant defense all year long, and I got no problem with that. If you're not striving to be better, no matter how good you are, you're only going to get worse. So Malafleur is being proactive about this and going out there. But I actually like this. I actually like Brandon Staley. And I'm going to tell you, because I don't want the defense. They just started hitting a groove. They just started, and I don't want to go to something so drastically different. I don't want to have to teach the 7-up looks on third down. I don't want to have to teach the double A gap mugs. I don't want to have to teach, a million different fronts and looks and rotations.
And start over.
I like what this team has as a baseline of knowledge right now. And if you can create a different type of mentality and identity along with some new players, I think this defense has nowhere to go but up.
Well, and that's what the 608 texter has, where he goes, didn't Staley teach Barry his methods when he was with the Chargers? What suggests that the scheme would be any different than Barry? Genuine questions. But that's kind of the answer, that they might not want the full scheme change. But what was the combating by many who said that that Joe Barry should be fired during the season, to the retort that at least I would put out? I think we were kind of all on the same wavelength of, well, what changes? They're still running the same stuff. You just put them at a disadvantage with the guy that's coordinating everything and running the week in scheme. Nothing changes except you make it more difficult on yourself every day except game day. Well, everybody's answer that wanted him fired was, we don't know that this guy calls the defense the same way. It can be the same scheme. It can be very similar plays, but it's the deployment of those and the deployment of the players, different blitz packages at different times, the sequencing of it like we do on offense, that can be a little bit different. And maybe it's exactly what they need, albeit not a drastic change like many want. Let's go to Pat in Fort Myers. He's got a solution. He's on 414-799-1973, and he's in a lot warmer climate than we are. Pat, happy Friday.
Oh, it's beautiful out here. Anyway, right to the point. I had alluded on my call in to the screener that the Packers' last 7 world championships included an all-pro safety. 5 times Willie Wood back in the 60s, Leroy Butler, and most recently Nick Collins. Collins got hurt beginning of 2011. The wheels fell off the defense. We all remember that season, right?
Oh, yeah.
15-1. Collins went down the third game of the year, and it was not the same defense without him. You got a kid from Iowa out there who's a very highly intelligent guy who will likely score 30 north in the Wonderlic score, and we know how important that is. You got to have brains.
Yeah, they don't
running
even
the
do it
defense.
anymore.
Well, if they don't, they should. But
I
anyway,
agree with that.
The bottom
They
line,
probably
you got a smart kid who's going to need some mentoring to the NFL. And I know there's a lot of debate on Jimmy Leonard, but Leonard, what Leonard brings to the defense, and you guys know it, is the unpredictability. He's coming up with new ideas. He can fit. He's got the NFL experience. In fact, had Leonard been a normal size safety and not a little runt, he would have been an all-pro player according
Are
to
we?
the guys.
What are we? Are we drafting Leonard now? Who are we drafting?
He wants
here?
Leonard to
No,
coach
he wants
and
Cooper
Cooper
DeJean
to be
from
drafted.
Iowa.
And he's told
I was confused
and he
as hell
told
here.
us,
I was
yeah.
like, hey, Jim Leonard's not coming back, or I'm coming back. We're going to do this together.
That'd
This
be
is going to
awesome.
be a tag team if we're doing it.
told that to the screener.
Why don't you let me finish, okay?
Yeah, how about you shut your
Okay.
mouth and let him finish, John?
It's his show.
Sorry about that, Pat.
You bring a guy in as coordinator that obviously has been more than sufficient in his years at Wisconsin. He was a quarterback on the field in his college and NFL career. He was an undersized All-American 2 years in a row as a walk-on. He's obviously an overachiever in everything he's done. And what you do is with that, you draft DeJean, and whether Leonard's there 5 years from now or not, you've got a guy who almost certainly, with his college credentials, is going to be an all-pro safety. And all I'm pointing out is I've been a Packer fan, by the way, since I was 5, 6 years old, and I was born in 54. So you do.
Damn
the math.
right,
I
yep.
watched
Yeah,
him.
got it on lockdown.
And the bottom line is you got a guy that'll be running the defense like Collins did, like Butler did, like Willie Wood did. And make no mistake about it, I know the Packer history. Willie
all
Wood
do.
was the glue of that defense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hey,
And
Pat.
the same thing.
Hey, y'all.
Anyway.
Yep. Anyway.
My opinion. Appreciate the time, guys.
Hey,
All right.
thanks, Pat. We appreciate you, man. Have a good weekend down there. It's going to be beautiful.
Not till he's
Um,
finished, though.
Well, he's finished now.
Jim Leonard and Cooper DeJean, and we're talking Super Bowl, baby.
And we're talking Super
That's
Bowl.
it. 2 guys from college. All we need is 2 guys from college, and we're going to the Super Bowl.
Willie Wood was a great safety. I don't
Nasty,
know.
yeah.
I don't know if Cooper DeJean is going to be the same guy. Willie Wood also had a lot of other Hall of Famers on that defense, right? I mean, Ray Nitschke was there. Herb Adderley was there. Willie Davis was there. Dave Robinson was there. I mean, Henry Jordan was there. So it's I don't know if it's that easy, but a good safety obviously helps. There's no doubt about it. I don't think we're debating.
Well,
that.
and they also this year were playing with safeties the likes of Anthony Johnson Jr., who was a 7th round pick, right? Like they had guys that throughout all of camp. Rudy Ford started a number of games throughout camp. That was the number one question: is who's going to end up starting next to Darnell Savage in the back end and going into the training camp period, guys. Wasn't Darnell Savage one of the highest question marks coming in from last year? So like that room may have been their weakest link. And according to Pat, who, by the way, knows the history of the Green Bay Packers, the most important position. Interesting thing for DeJean, I don't know how much safety they want him to play in the NFL. He played a ton of corner in college, and he can run on the outside. I think that's where most teams want him to play. But listen, I'm a Cooper DeJean fan. I like watching him return
I was
punts.
afraid to ask Pat the simple question. What if they bring in, Brandon Staley and draft somebody not named Cooper DeJean? Are we just screwed? Are we done?
I'm not
Is
going
that
to the
the
Super Bowl.
Is that the only answer we have?
Yeah.
I didn't get a chance to ask him that.
No,
Well,
'cause
you
if
couldn't
you
let him
would have just
finish.
let him
Big
finish.
bummer. Oh, I should have let him finish.
You would have
before
just
I
let
asked
him
the
finish.
question. Okay, you're
Jeez.
right.
Well, why you let him
Jeez.
finish?
My
He's
bad.
been
How dare
watching
you.
since he's been 5. So
5 or 6, give or take a year.
I'll have to
or
ask
so.
the screener when I talk to him what he told the screener.
You don't like that name, do you?
Nah, actually, it's kind of funny.
You get so mad
It's not
when
his
somebody
fault.
calls you sorry in the screen.
He has no idea. I appreciate that he thinks someone else is.
I think
screening
he's
the
got a
calls.
pretty good idea when you answer the phone. I think those pipes are a little bit difficult to confuse. All right, Matt Steinman gives us his update. You can give us your take at 414-799-1973. Might grab a phone call just before we tap in with Schneid's next, as he gives us the breakdown. Brandon Staley, the first of maybe many to interview for the vacant Packers DC job. That conversation's next on The Game.
Save the dance. Oh, the save the dance. Yes, save the dance.
A couple good reactions to our buddy Pat calling us from Fort Myers. Really good call. I mean, he was dialed in. And listen, we don't have to agree. Actually, we're probably more incentivized to disagree with opinions voiced on the talk and text line. Does not mean that we are discrediting opinions.
Absolutely, Billy. Great point.
We will make more statements in response and in validation to what our opinion is, to validate that opinion that might sound like we are going against yours. We are arguing for ours because we believe they're right? John doesn't come on out here and say something that he doesn't believe. I don't say something on the microphone that I don't believe. Armin doesn't say anything on the microphone that he doesn't believe. Right? Okay, so we can just say that right out of the gates. So we're not trying to discredit anyone's opinion. Like Jake F. in Micro, he goes, agree. You guys won't let this guy finish after he calls in your show. But for you two, it's your way or no way. How much history do you even know about the Packers, Mr. Bill? Know it all? Not nearly as much as Pat. I've been watching the Packers since he was 5 or 6 years old, and that was in 54. So you can do the math. A man's been watching the Green Bay Packers a lot longer than I have. So, I mean, very true.
No one's discrediting or roasting him or whatever you want to say.
We're
just having fun with
back
it.
and forth.
We were just trying to get him to along a little
Right,
bit.
that's all. It's a process.
Let's get going here. You got some points. I want to hear them. Let's get.
We'd like it a little bit more succinctly. We'd like it a little quicker, a little faster, a little better pacing is
like
the
Matt
better way.
Schneidman does.
And
Matt Schneidman will get.
And without
he's getting better.
without the finger wagging of
How
let
about
me
you shut your
finish.
mouth?
Yeah. No one in the world though disagrees with him that we need a Hall of Fame safety. Like everybody
That would be
agrees.
a good idea.
Okay, we
that's-
agree.
So those are the points. We need a Hall of Fame safety.
Yep.
And we need Jim Leonard. And then
check.
we're going to the Super
And
Bowl.
Cooper
Going to the
Cooper
Super Bowl.
DeJean.
And Cooper DeJean,
I can't wait until Matt
DeJean.
says about-
which would be
about this.
all really, really good. Matt Schneidman is on the line listening to us rant and rave about this caller that we just had on the talk and text line. And going to need some Happy Place hemp, Matt. Relax, RELAX, relax for great hemp products made locally and legally right here in the state of Wisconsin. HappyPlaceHemp.com is where you get them. People are fired up. People are not very excited about the tweet that you had along with Diana Rossini. Great job, Matt, not stealing her scoop, by the way, an hour ago when you guys sent that on out, that it is indeed Brandon Staley who gets the first interview for the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator job. Is this the first of many, or are we feeling like they might be zeroing in on something very interesting very quickly?
I don't know. Like we've said, Matt LaFleur could cast a wide net. I don't know if it's the first interview. It's the first known interview, at least that I've seen be reported. So Brandon Staley's going to get a crack at it. It's the similar defensive scheme that Joe Barry runs. Obviously, part of the reason Matt LaFleur liked Joe Barry in the first place back in 2021 was because he came from the Brandon Staley tree, was the linebackers coach in LA under Brandon Staley when Staley was the defensive coordinator in 2020 with the Rams. So, I don't know if LaFleur's zeroing in on guys who run this scheme or guys who have been a DC before, just the first known name that we know and who people do not seem thrilled about it. But let's remember, while his defenses were not good with the Chargers, over the last 3 years, I'm including the years or the weeks that he wasn't with the team this year, it tells a fairly accurate picture. So from 2021 to 2023, Chargers 28th in points allowed per game, tied for 19th in takeaways, 27th in yards allowed per game. Last time Staley was a DC with the Rams, and yes, I understand he had Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, and the like. First in the league in scoring defense, first in the league in yards allowed per game, tied for 10th in takeaways. So who knows? Maybe this is just an instance of Matt LaFleur thinks he's better focusing on one thing as defensive coordinator instead of being a head coach. It might just be a fact-finding mission, as some of these interviews are. We don't know how legit it is.
Can I ask you, when there's a coach and there's a tree, right? I'm fascinated by this because Joe Barry was a defensive coordinator before he was under Staley in LA. He was an actual defensive coordinator. I'm curious if he is then a linebackers coach under said coordinator for 1 year. Is he then under his tree running his defense?
Well, I would say you're saying is Joe Barry then running Brandon Staley's defense when he comes to Green Bay?
Yeah, he coached under him for one season in LA, and he had been a defensive coordinator for other teams before in the NFL, the Lions, the Redskins, and now he comes to Green Bay to be a DC. Is he more apt to run the defense that he ran for 1 year under Staley, or is he more apt to run the defenses that he ran before when he was the defensive coordinator before? Because I keep hearing this. He was the student to Brandon Staley's tree.
For a year. Yeah. I mean, that was most fresh in his mind, I guess, since that's most recent in Joe Barry's repertoire was helping to run that defense in LA. Now, I don't know why you would want him to run the defenses he ran in Washington and Detroit with how bad those were, but I think what was in vogue at the time, and in some ways still is, was that Vic Fangio, Brandon Staley style defense. And Joe Barry had a year in it. And sometimes, all you need is a year to get your next job. Brandon Staley was a DC for a year before he got a head coaching job. That's how impressive he was. So maybe Matt LaFleur thought, heck, my defensive coordinator only needs a year in the system if some guys are getting head coaching jobs off a year in the system. And then I'm sure the kind word of Sean McVay certainly helped. But again, there are going to be plenty of interviews, I'd imagine, for this job. Matt LaFleur has to get it right. I would imagine Brandon Staley's not the only one. So everyone needs to just take a deep breath and relax.
And when is Bill Belichick interviewing? Because after Raheem Morris got named the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons yesterday, you already excluded the Mike Vrabel thing. Well done. Everybody saw that yesterday. So then immediately moved on to Bill Belichick. So his interview Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, I don't know why Bill Belichick would want to take a defensive coordinator job unless he just loves football that much. I would imagine. I don't know the first thing about Bill Belichick personally, so I could be completely wrong. But he's 26 wins from tying Don Shula's all-time record.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why he would want to take a DC job. Go sit on a beach somewhere, big fella. You've earned
Loves
it.
ball.
I agree with you, but what if he does love ball like that? That you said it, and that might be the way. That might be the trick, like the whole Jim Calhoun thing about going back to coach.
Going
D3,
back to D3
because some guys are the only way they could get Belichick to actually talk at a presser was about that question about special teams, wasn't it? Where he talked like for 13 minutes about building a special teams unit or something like that. I don't know. It's a pipe dream. It's never gonna happen. But I think the funny thing is when you say that, that might be the secret. Like, he might just be a guy that loves football that much that wants to break down film and stuff like that. I don't know.
We now know via Jane Slater that Joe Barry is interviewing not just for a position on the Bears defensive staff, but their defensive coordinator position. Obviously not, I don't believe, defensive play caller, since I think Matt Eberflus calls the plays, or at least did after they changed their defensive coordinator. But Joe Barry gets 2 defensive coordinator interviews not long after the Packers show him the door.
Does that mean he's not staying with the Packers in some capacity, like Rob Domofsky may have suggested?
Rob didn't suggest that. It was Schefter who suggested it. But yeah, I wouldn't imagine that he's staying with the Packers. I think that was maybe more of Matt LaFleur trying to be loyal to a friend and say, hey, we might have a position for you. Now, I don't know if Joe doesn't want that. I don't know if it didn't work out from LaFleur's end. Obviously, if Joe gets another DC job, even if it's not calling plays, he'd take that anyway. So we'll see what kind of pans out here.
Is it difficult to foresee the Packers going in and hiring somebody that's had head coaching experience for the DC role? Like, obviously they've done it before with Patton, but that one was kind of handed off. Like, I know it's more funny with Belichick, but somebody with head coaching experience, that wouldn't be any form of an issue? Or do you think a prerequisite, if anything?
I don't know. Because just as easily, Matt LaFleur could say, I want kind of a rising
star. Yeah.
Rising star who has something to prove, not someone who's just in it to get back in the head coaching ranks. Like maybe a Leslie. I'm not saying these guys are only to get back in the head coaching ranks. I'm just naming people who've been head coaches before. Rex Ryan, Leslie Frazier, Jack Del Rio, people like that. So I don't know what their motivations would be, what Matt LaFleur kind of values in his DC, if he wants head coaching experience to, lead people, if he wants just a position coach or someone who's recently fired as a DC, like Mike Caldwell from the Jaguars, who led a fairly decent defense the last 2 years. Again, I expect a wide net to be cast. That's just my assumption. I've been wrong about things before. Maybe I'll be wrong. And maybe LaFleur just interviews 5 people. Who knows?
The Frazier part is just interesting, guys, because like he was a DC for the Bills. Obviously, they were a successful defense, but then he was also under a defensive head coach who then took over play calling once he was no longer the DC. But he seemed like he only wanted head coaching job. Like the hiring cycle is kind of cleaned up. Maybe more of those guys do leak out and are more available. Like John, that could be an interesting spot of some of these guys. We're going to talk more about the guys that are on the outside looking in for head coaching jobs, but more candidates become open once you realize of who's not going to be the head guy. And, do I go build that nice ranch out on a half an acre of land like McCarthy did or like Zimmer did and watch film with a bunch of my friends? Or do I go and coach somewhere else? That's a tough balancing act at this point.
I think for older coaches, you think if they don't coach, do they get into media? Many people thought Bill Cowher was going to be a head coach again someday. He was going to take a couple years or maybe just 1 year and do the TV thing like Sean Payton, center himself, wait for his ideal job to open up before he threw his hat back in the ring. And then he found, wow, this TV gig is pretty good. I like this. I get to talk ball. I don't have to work the excruciating hours, and I get to have fun and spend a lot of time with my family. And I think with old coaches, especially like a Bill Belichick, he might be thinking to himself, man, if I go do that, I'm never coming back. If I walk away for a year, I won't be back, and I won't do it. That's why it's fascinating that, Morris got the job down there instead of Bill Belichick in Atlanta, because now you say, well, there's only a couple spots left and there's still some big time names out there. Where does he finally fall? If he does fall, because if he doesn't, will he ever coach again? I think that's a big question.
It's a fair question. And I was going to say, I obviously, kind of jokingly tweeted that picture from Packers.com of LaFleur and Belichick talking during joint practices.
People loved it, dude.
Belichick loves the history of Green Bay, has a lot of appreciation for it. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm going to go be the Packers DC. I don't think it's going to happen, but who knows?
Do you know how many cutoff hoodies they would sell in the pro shop if that actually happened?
It would be insane.
It'd be unreal. Like, I mean, the marketing would just be fantastic. I'm saying red meat for everybody that would want it. It would be great. All right, Matt, let's move on here. You did mention that Joe Barry is interviewing around. Any other potential dudes that you have heard of on the defensive staff? Because that's kind of a weird hanging Chad. Sounds like they have jobs, maybe potentially here, but we don't know yet. You can go interview somewhere else. Are some of those guys being proactive, or are you getting the sense that most of them are staying put and waiting to see what happens?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if LaFleur has, I guess, given anyone else permission to interview. Look, if they hire a guy like Brandon Staley, then he has a bunch of position coaches already in place who have already run the defense that he wants to run. So that would kind of be an easy transition to stay. But ultimately, I would imagine it's up to whatever new defensive coordinator comes in, whether or not they want to keep the position coaches. So that's obviously the second layer that needs to be unpeeled here after we find out who the next defensive coordinator is okay, are they going to keep the position coaches on staff? Are they not? A pro of keeping them is they're already familiar with the personnel. They're already familiar with the system. A con, maybe for a new defensive coordinator, is his messaging is already better known by maybe some of his former coaches. So that's another thing that would need to be figured out. And just when we thought we would have a nice free month before the combine, nope.
No chance. No, you were not going to Cabo. You were not getting any Punta Canas. No. Right back, buddy, Jim. Right back to the keyboard.
Can I ask, just so we're clear, one more time, if Brandon Staley comes in, because you just said coaches here would be coaching the same positions and the same scheme under Brandon Staley that they were under Joe Barry. Like, we're certain this defense is the same. We're certain this defense is Brandon Staley, Joe Barry, but just a different guy calling the plays at a different time.
Well, I would imagine it's the same, principles of it. If I haven't paid too close attention to what the Chargers have run. I do know they gave up 100 points to the Raiders a couple weeks ago, but if Joe Barry was under Brandon Staley and was brought here to run that defense, and Brandon Staley kept the same principles of that defense in LA, ipso facto, Joe Barry and Brandon Staley ran essentially the same defense by principles. The keep everything in front, bend but don't break, cover 2 shell, prevent explosives. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, down to the T, it's the same, but I would say the same foundational principles.
Matt, if you couldn't be covering football, what sport would you be covering?
That's a good question.
It's a cool question. Yeah.
I like the pace of football. I don't like how much you'd have to travel for baseball and NBA. But I'd probably say baseball, just because there's more interest in it than NBA, I think.
I think on the day-to-day, at least for the writing style of it too, because you get so immersed into it throughout it. Yeah. And you know what? 6 weeks out in Arizona or in Florida in the middle of February probably wouldn't be a bad deal. Matt, we appreciate all your work this year. It's been fantastic. We are not saying goodbye forever.
This isn't goodbye. This is just until
I think we might
so long
do a once a week through the Super Bowl, or when my contract with 97.3 goes through the end of the draft. So anytime there's news,
I didn't know about
now we
that.
got him every day to the end of the draft because you just alerted everyone.
Sweet. Appreciate it. All right.
No,
Dial in. We'll
not
talk to you
every
on the
day.
next end.
Definitely not every day.
No?
Definitely not every day. I'm just saying, like,
How about once a week?
when if I have some news or the Packers hire a defensive coordinator, like, the bat phone's ready when necessary.
How about Wednesdays, 10 o'clock?
So you
right
do
here?
have a bat phone. I asked you that question, and you said you're only a one phone kind of guy.
Yeah,
My bat phone is my regular phone.
So there's
Oh,
one
so you're
phone.
a non-regular phone guy.
It's the bat phone. It's the everything phone.
The everything.
And
phone.
it's been a good. We're still going to talk to you. This is not totally goodbye, but it's been a good year. I mean, we've had some really fun times.
I've asked him 3 times about Wednesdays, 10 o'clock. That doesn't seem like it's going to play for him.
Wednesdays?
If John and Armin would shut up, I can answer that question. Yeah.
Let him finish.
I'm trying to learn here, Matt.
Just let everybody finish.
Wednesdays at 10 sounds good.
Hey,
So there we go. Let's go.
All right.
Let's go. All right, Matt. We appreciate it, man. You seriously though, fantastic work. As Packers fans, we appreciate the hustle that you've had through this year, the trials and tribulations, travel wise.
Yeah.
Some long hours and some long days. And the offseason's not starting up, but we appreciate everything that you've done for us on the day in and day out basis.
Thanks, fellas. The feeling is mutual sometimes.
Sometimes. Hey, there you go. Listen, that's all that we can ask for. We can only ask to be batting about 500. That's Matt Schneidman. There he goes on the talking text line for a number of times. Now he's on the X and YouTube stream, which you can be watching throughout the day as well. You can also get us up at 414-799-1973. And we can have a conversation like Jeff is going to here on the other side of the break. Some more reaction on the talk line. And many people, something either Jake or Scott arguing with Armin right now on the talk line or the text line about us not allowing people to have their time. We are giving you your time. We're giving you a chance to say your piece about the Packers defensive coordinator. Let's just do it a little quicker. Let's just do it succinctly. We're just going to try to be a little better pacing.
Cannot guarantee we won't cut you off.
414
can almost guarantee we will at some particular point in time. Yeah, that's the only guarantee we can give on it, though.
It's not open mic. 414-799-1973. I'm just saying. That's true. We got our own pace to keep. Everyone's got pace to keep.
And it's like improv. You got to be able to bend. You got to be able to go yes and.
Right,
listen to our question and then respond on off of it.
Right.
Let's have a conversation. 414-799-1973. It's 9 to noon on the game.
John Kuhn here with Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin. And even when the weather outside is frightful, your energy bill could be much more delightful. By replacing drafty windows and doors in your home, you can dramatically lower your energy costs today. Pella Windows and Doors of Wisconsin offers some of the most energy efficient windows in all of the industry, designed to keep that cold outside, right where it belongs. And you can help kick your January blues when you choose to book by the 31st for 0% interest for up to 36 months. You heard that right. No interest payments for 36 months if you book by January 31st. Pella's premium wood windows and patio doors feature distinguished craftsmanship and nearly endless possibilities. With maximum design flexibility in dramatic sizes, custom colors, finishes, profiles, product types, and much, much more. Choose between traditional and contemporary and start enjoying a warmer home with lower energy bills today. But you have to hurry. To get 0% interest for 3 years, you have to book by January 31st. So visit PellaWI.com. Tell Gina Della that I, John Kuhn, sent you. Certain restrictions apply. See showroom for details.
They're not used to having people here on Saturdays.
That's what I think. Everything they do is recorded. All right,
That makes sense. Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? You need to call QC Kinetics today. Hey, it's Bill Schmidt. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ways like steroids and surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain? Back pain? Got shoulder pain from arthritis or an injury? Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you the long-term relief with no downtime. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you the long-term relief with no downtime you've been dreaming of. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility, reclaim your independence, walk and run and play and live without the danger and trauma of surgery and without harmful drugs. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. It's 414-285-3474. That's 414-285-3474. 414-285-3474. What's good on this Friday? It's 9 to noon. Billy Schmidt hanging out with John Kuhn, Armin Sarian, two of our best friends, with all of you hanging out on the talking text line, having Packers conversation, talking about the NFC and AFC title games this weekend. We're going to make some picks coming up in about a half hour. You're going to make some picks coming up in about 40 minutes because it's the You Better You Bet playoffs. We got one additional in.
Are they all in, Armin?
It's a great question.
Every pick is in. I got an email from Don this morning.
Is he in Vegas? Is he heading to Vegas or
I really
heading to Atlantic City?
Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to actually talk with him. I want to know all these questions. I mean, I think Deviation Don lives a life that we kind of don't realize.
Everybody wishes they could.
I think, we might have thought Deviation Don is just, it's Don in Caledonia who's, complaining about deviations. No. I mean, he's in limos and Uber XLs going to Vegas and going again. He's telling us every time he's going to be there, Billy.
Maybe he's a hedge fund manager or something. Maybe he's crunching numbers for a living, Armin, and that's what we should be doing.
I don't care what he is, as long as if he's got comps, and then we're there at the same time.
Yeah, he was hitting us up talking about if he's going to be out there Memorial Day weekend partying and on up.
Oh, I know someone will be there.
Can't be there without Coops. Got to have Coops, baby. People that hate Dane Cook, that's still one of my favorite ones. All right, guys, backpacks.
Coupons. I remember
backpacks. Iron Jock has backpacks.
Sandwich.
Yeah, the BK Lounge.
I remember that. That was
BK
big.
Lounge. Can I get into the BK Lounge, Dane? Now without Coops.
Yeah, Dane Cook was big for about 6 months in 2005. He was, and then everyone figured out he wasn't that funny.
Yeah, right. That it was more of just him yelling and screaming and dancing into the microphone.
Remember
Dane
Cook, John? I know you remember him.
Impressionist, right? Did a lot of impressions.
Comedian, and he would just do voices of himself.
He would always do the stand-ups on the ring, where it was stadium seating around him versus doing it just on the stage. I always thought that had to be tough because you got to sell jokes to people that are behind you.
That are looking at your back. That's tough.
I mean, you think about it, that's probably the hardest way to do a comedy show because part of laughing at them is seeing their faces when they're doing all this stuff.
That's a good point.
If you're looking at his back while he's giving the punchline, you're like, I don't know.
It's hitting a little different.
Funny, but I don't know if this side of him makes me laugh as much as that side of him.
Well, maybe if it makes you laugh more, then there might be even more of an issue. But you know what? You're just backing his back. Pack in the back. Iron Jock has backpacks for you, and they want you to back the pack right now.
We'll get that in.
Free Iron Jock backpack. Free Iron Jock backpack now through February 4th. When you buy $75 or more of Iron Jock performance gear, take 25% off the entire order and get a free Iron Jock drawstring backpack. $25 value when you use promo code 25backpack. It's 25backpack at ironjock.com now through February 4th. Iron Jock, ironjoc.com. All right,
Can I take us sideways real quick?
No, let me hear it.
I don't mean to interrupt, but if I don't interrupt,
let him finish.
We will never.
I prefer you get it out now and then forget it.
I'm sorry I didn't let you finish. Do you guys call it a backpack or a book bag?
Good question. When I was a kid, a lot of people said book bag. I always said backpack.
I was always a backpack guy.
Always.
I'm a book bag guy, and I've been outvoted in my family. My wife was backpack, and every time I say it, it's book bag, and every time my wife says it's backpack, and now my kids say backpack. I lost that battle.
It's not regional then, right?
I was going to say, so it's not a regional thing? Because I did kind of think it was an East Coast thing for more of a book bag.
You know, the other thing is my kids say bubbler. I say water fountain.
Yeah, the kids are being raised right.
Yeah, they got backpack. Yeah. They got bubbler. I lost those, but it's okay. I'm happy about
how they pronounce bagels.
Well, they still just say bagels.
Okay. Yeah. Once it goes bagels, that's when we have an issue. That's when the cultural fight really starts on in.
So I'd get sideways looks a lot from people and my friends when I would say water fountain and not bubbler.
Because you're just trying to be cool.
Well, no, it's not that. I was born and raised in Wisconsin, but my mom is from Chicago. My dad's from the Wilmington, Delaware. So they didn't give me the whole bubbler thing.
Soda or pop?
Soda, 100%.
Yeah, it's soda all the way. The other thing my kids say is they don't say mail, they say post because of Peppa Pig.
That's interesting. That's a
they don't get the mail.
That's awesome.
They don't get the mail, they get the post. Also, when we go on vacation, we actually go on holiday.
Because that's British, right?
That's British and Peppa Pig.
I mean, my kids, they're a hodgepodge of Peppa Pig, Bluey, and Wisconsin. I mean, it's a great language to try and learn. And I am always off the ball.
It is so funny to hear that British accent.
Just spit it all over the place. We go on holiday now.
Are you on
Wow.
holiday?
That's
so,
awesome.
So funny to hear that British accent. Are you on holiday?
Which of those two are the better ones, Peppa Pig or Bluey? Because I've heard conflicting reports from my friends telling me what I'm in for the next like 3 to 10 years.
Peppa Pig has the better accent to listen to, but Bluey is the better show by far.
Okay. I'm excited because little guy got a Bluey for Christmas. Looking around at this thing like, what on earth is this? Showed him the show. Dialed in.
Yeah, Bluey's
Locked
Bluey's
in.
a monster. Bluey is that thing.
Man, good
Bluey's
for
that
him.
dude. Bluey's that dude.
Because listen, we
No, his name, Bluey
He's him?
actually is a girl.
Oh, my bad. I
Bluey
I
and
was not
Bingo
familiar
are
with
the
the
you
girls.
girls.
identifying
The dad-
son of a.
I was
The
not
dad,
familiar.
the dad is Bandit, and the mom is Chili.
Chili.
Now you're
Okay.
getting it. Yeah, Chili,
Harmon just
Bandit,
assuming out
Bluey,
here.
and Bingo.
Apologies. I was not unfamiliar with your game. Sorry about that. That was.
Well, listen, Bluey is pretty intense. Got a bunch of supporters. We got a bunch of supporters from across the state and across the globe. Let's go up to the top part of the state, listening to us in 710 on 710 The Game in Superior, Rhinelander area, Twin Ports, all over the place. Jeff's in Superior, and he's on 9 to noon. What's going on, Jeff?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for the opportunity. I have a couple thoughts. First, I want to say when I was growing up, I have a couple buddies. We used to play catch with football, in the winter. And I was the quarterback, and the guys would jump over the snowbank or, they'd run on the road and dive into the ditch where there was snow. And I would throw the ball so they could catch it and land in the snow. And I used to pretend I was Scott Hunter and John Hadel. I mean, we
pretend
had
you were
so much
Hadel?
fun.
That's the worst one to pretend you are. Hadel.
But we were Packer fans.
Absolutely.
What I want
Okay.
Yeah. What I like about Coach LaFleur is I think he develops the body, mind, and spirit of all of his players, of all of his, the athletes he has. And I think that's important. I don't think we should lose the butterflies. I know when we go into big games, we have to have a scheme and we got plans and we've practiced and we've, built up our muscles and we've rested and we're prepared physically. But I think it's also important to keep those butterflies when you're a Green Bay Packer. And that's what us fans can contribute to. Because I think when we have success and victories, it's a shared thing because we're, shareholders. We own the team.
Absolutely.
But we all have a part to play. And I think that's a blessing compared to other NFL teams. So what I want to say is I like this coach. I think he's serious. I think he's committed. And I think he's going to get the right people in place so we can win another Super Bowl. I think that's really what he wants.
There you go.
That's what I'm talking
Big
about.
time support. Jeff from Superior gassing up LaFleur. I
Let's
like
go,
that, Jeff.
Since Jeff has played catch since he was 5, and our last caller was a fan since he was 5,
We played that too.
I'm going to put something in motion here. I'm going to put this a 9 to noon motion. Can I get a second that for every time you call in, you got to say when you became a fan of the Green Bay Packers and how long
Second.
you've been watching?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's
So
say it.
every nooner that calls in from now until the end of time has to tell us their name, where they're from, and how long they've been a Packer fan since what age. And then maybe
one playground game you played.
maybe potentially you can
Yeah.
say whether you say water fountain or bubbler, and we'll get to the bottom of that too.
Yeah, those are all really important questions that we have to get on in here. Let's get to Pete in Jersey listening to us. I'm gonna guess water fountain for our guy Pete in Jersey.
Yeah,
Pete, you're on 9
absolutely.
to noon. What's happening?
Hey guys, how you doing? First of all, huge fan of the show. You guys do a great job. Really fun listen. First of all, I was I'd say about 6 or 7. I mean, I'm
Yes!
Wisconsin native, born and raised, but probably age 6 or 7 is when I grew up, we had like Lynn Dickey and Don Bracken was kicking the ball backwards and Jim Irwin would be going absolutely psycho. Don Bracken is just kick the ball backwards, but so it's pretty lean until kind of my high school years when Favre and
Perfect timing.
that whole era. But yeah, man, it's I'm as passionate today though as a guy in his late 40s in New Jersey than any time in my life. With regard to the defensive coordinator, I actually think we just need to get a young up and comer, someone who's maybe doesn't have a ton of brand recognition right now, to fans like me, but someone who has clearly proven their value and can come in and, quickly put their stamp on the Packers defense. And, we don't need anybody, in my opinion, that's like a Wink Martindale. I mean, first of all, that guy, he just looks creepy. And
oh, come on.
I like that.
But does he have the
do
right?
like that.
But
I
does
do
he
like
have
that.
the right amount of creepy? Like, you can be too creepy, you can be like
Totally.
creepy walking around school's creepy, or you can be creepy. That guy's psycho. I don't want to mess with that type of psycho. There's a good psycho too.
Yeah, he's certifiably crazy because, I mean, guys, how many
Oh,
guys
thanks, KB.
do you know who shave above the ear by like a solid inch and a half and try to pull that look off, and like he thinks he looks good.
It's a great
I don't
point.
know why. Maybe it's because he's his
Sideburns.
reading
Gotta have
glasses
'em.
or something like that. But that's just a bad look. So I just don't like his mojo. I don't like his energy. Don't bring Wink. I don't know. He's just too old school for me. Get a young, up and comer, someone who's nasty and who will get the respect of these guys, because we've got the talent on defense. We just got to harness it the right way. That's all I got to say, guys. Speaking of kids, John, I got my little 6-year-old in the car. We just picked him up half day, so I'm gonna just turn it off and listen.
Heck yeah,
By the
man.
way, tell the guys who are doing the iHeart Radio app. It's like, I mean, it's a great app when it works. But like, I love the show. I want to listen to this.
Listen,
show.
I wish I could.
Yeah, you're preaching to
The
the
deal
choir
with that
over
is
here.
we're working on it.
We're working on it.
on
We're
it.
working on it, Pete.
and
We're working
some
on
things
it.
are out of
Yeah.
our control. I wish I knew how to build apps. If I did, I'd probably be making a lot more money if I knew how to build apps.
Oh, sure, yeah. Just get that feedback to Ron and IT, or Ron in the app department, and
Yep.
wherever he is, parts and
John.
guys, great show. I love it, and I'm gonna hang up and listen from here.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you,
What a great
Pete in
call.
Jersey. That was a great call.
That
Also,
was
YouTube will
hey,
work out for you too now.
You want to know how to do a call? You do it like that. You call in, you say where you're from, you say how many years or when you started becoming a Packer fan, and then you get to your point, man.
Get right
you just
to
started
it.
having a good time, and I loved it. And even at the end, he told us our app sucks, but he loves listening to it when it works. Awesome.
That's
Awesome stuff.
We love when everything
Send that
works
to Bob
too.
Pittman today.
Yeah,
By the way,
okay.
By the way, he
sounds
doesn't
good.
he doesn't like Wink because he's been watching too much of him out there in Jersey.
That's what I think
fair,
too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. He said he
Guys
was
are
in
gonna-
New York area of Jersey too.
I do
not the
like though
South
that he
Jersey.
admitted to one of the reasons he doesn't like him. I just don't like the way he looks, man. Like I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't like it. I appreciate the honesty.
Well, and the creep factor of shaving your sideburns above the ear. At that point in time, there are no sideburns.
Yeah.
it's
It's
weird.
It's also a good locker room jab because John, that immediately when somebody would walk in there, probably in 2012 with a cut like that, that gave you guys probably 3 to 4 weeks of ammunition until it grew back.
But then the second, on the other hand, because I like to play devil's advocate, is that look coming back? I thought when the mustaches started coming back, just the mustache and the mustache alone, I thought that was creepy.
Everything is.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought these guys were weird. Same with shorts up around,
That's all I was gonna say.
the Mendoza line.
Everything's
Mhm.
cyclical. They're
So-
short again now.
Are we about to go? Is Wink Martindale ahead of the curve? Should we start a poll? Is Wink Martindale ahead of the curve with these no sideburns? Are we
Maybe.
doing this again?
He might be in that realm. And
I'll
as
never
somebody
do it. I'll never do it.
And as somebody that only goes full mustache, it's a creepy look. There's a reason why I can only do it for a certain amount of time.
And it's kind of annoying, but you got something about trends being cyclical, John. These shorts are shorter now.
Yeah, the shorts are
You
unreal.
can't be wearing these and one Marbury shorts
No.
from Stephen Barry's anymore. All right.
You should have seen me at basketball practice.
I know you were all excited with the. I saw you break out those Jordan 11s.
Yeah. And when I go and when I do wear shorts, when it gets warm enough to wear shorts again, below the knees.
Got to be below
I'm
the
coming
knees.
in like the '93 Wolverines. I'm coming in below the knees.
Yeah.
Plain blue T-shirt, below the knee shorts.
And
That's what's up.
one shorts, right?
No doubt about
Yeah.
it. Just killing kids with crossovers last night. That's what we're talking about. 414-799-1973. We're talking to you on that PellaWI.com talking text line. 414-799-1973. Talking text line's up and running. You got 9 to noon on the game.
They bring dinner to my room and ask me to.
9 to noon on the game. Heck of a day here on the Talking Text line. Brandon Staley interviewing to be the Packers defensive coordinator. Some people have problems with it. Some people want to voice their opinion on who they want. We just had our friend Pete in Jersey say he does not want Wink Martindale. Justin in Jacksonville. One thing about Wink is he couldn't get along with John Harbaugh in Baltimore when it was working, so they parted ways. Same thing happened in New York after just 2 years. Why doesn't it happen here? I mean, that's a fair question to ask.
He's got creepy. But is it the right kind of creepy? It might be the right kind of creepy for a year or two, but not the right kind of creepy for 3 or 4.
Yeah, after 3 or 4 years, you just look around saying that's just a little messed up. And you stop using the word messed. 414-799-1973. Let's go. Listening to us potentially on the iHeartRadio app is our friend Josh in Eau Claire. He's in the EC. He's on 9 to noon. What's going on, Josh?
Well, first off, I've been a Packer fan since the Don Mikowski, Linda Infante era.
There we go.
And as a plumber, when people call it a bubbler or a water fountain, I cringe. In the Wisconsin Plumbing Code book, it's called a drinking fountain.
Okay, fair enough.
We got facts.
Okay,
he
wow.
chose C.
He went to the
He
code.
chose violence. It's C. None of the above.
Drinking fountain. He said, smart enough,
He came
folks.
with receipts from
That's
the
what
codes.
I'm talking about. Okay, Josh, what's your point? What do you got?
Well, I'm just saying, that's if you want to know the official name of it, that's the Wisconsin.
That was
Oh,
it.
I appreciate that. No
That
doubt
was
about
it.
it. Yes.
Okay. Nothing else?
All right.
No Packer stuff? Okay.
Nope, that's it.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. He
All
just
right.
wanted to correct us.
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'm cool with that too.
That works out. Let's go to
Succinct. That
very
one.
quick.
But
But
you
he
need to cut off.
and he said Lindy and Fonzie.
I coach these callers. That's when I screen them. I tell them. I let them know. Like,
Oh,
let's
you
keep
are
it-
the screener.
Oh,
now.
that's
Yeah.
the first time.
I
Okay.
screen them.
That's the first time I've heard of that process. Let's go to Troy in Milwaukee. He's up on the Talking Text line. What's up, Troy?
Morning, guys. Been watching since the Randy Wright days.
All right, cool.
Perfect.
And, question about, I'm more intrigued by a defensive coordinator where we change styles, but I'm worried about how long it takes to adapt to a whole new defense. What's the track record on first-year defensive coordinators coming in and completely changing the defense?
That is a great point. And
Mhm.
and here's the thing. How much patience do you have? Everybody talks about Joe Barry this year, and if he was so great, why did it take until the end of the year for his defense to start playing their best football? Well, listen, there's a learning curve for every team at the beginning of every season, and they don't come out of the preseason womb ready to ball at their best time. And you would generally hope that a team gels and gets better as the season goes on. That's what you saw here with Joe Barry and his defense the last 4 games of the season. And yet, we had the patience on the offensive side because the guys were young. If you get a new kind of scheme and everything, you're going to have MAs. You're going to have MAs at the beginning of the season, and you have to live with them because you have to see what we saw in the Packers offense at the beginning of the year, right? Not efficient, not high, not at a high clip, but they showed them those big impact throws out of Jordan Love, the big time plays by the young wide receivers, and you saw they can do it. They just need to do it consistently. So that's what you'll have if you bring in a new system. If Staley is the guy, and we continue down the cover 2 shell and to keep everything in front of you and the bend but don't break defense, it could be very similar at the beginning of the year once again, where you come out and guys are catching up to the speed of the regular season, and then they start hitting their stride toward later in the season. And when you have something new, the one thing you have at the beginning of the season that you can hold as kind of a joker in the hole is they have not got film of that team running that defense. And it's the hardest thing.
Looks.
I've done this so many times where a team has a new defensive coordinator and you're watching film, you're playing the Bears the first week of the season, and you got film of the 49ers. And you're watching the 49ers defense, and you're, man, we got to somehow figure out how to stop Justin Smith and Alden Smith and Patrick Willis and Navarro Bowman. No, we don't. No, we don't, because that's not the defense we're playing. So you're studying that defense for the techniques, and yet you can't study the mannerisms of the teams you're going to play. So the Packers would have that if they switched up their entire defense, that advantage of teams not being able to scout them. But,
For how long?
Do you want your guys to really have to learn that new system?
Well, in the new system, and I don't know, the terminology will most likely be different, right? Brandon Staley's not going to come on in here and learn what they were doing. They'll probably tweak some stuff on up. So maybe the communication will already be something that you'll have some trials with early on. But that was one of the biggest issues that LaFleur talked about late into the season on their defensive struggles. You want to trust more of that when you're learning all new terminology, all new plays to the middle of your defense that's still got to work on the communication aspect of it. That could be another leg up for guys that are already in this system. That's a good call by Troy in Milwaukee. We'll take a couple more here. We'll keep this thing going on the other side of this break. We got your picks for You Better You Bet, the conference championship edition, 9 in. We allowed one to pass on through without actually winning the competition. We had a tie there with a pair. Nobody wanted to do a coin flip. Apparently nobody thinks that that's fun. I disagree, but listen, we all have our opinions. We will all battle for them, and we will all continue to try to express why they could be right, wrong, or indifferent. Next, you're listening to 9 to Noon on the Game.
Rock and roll, no halo, we party rock. Yeah, that's the clue that I'm repping on a rise to the top. No lead in our Zeppelin. Hey, party rock is in the house tonight. Woo! Everybody just have a good time. Yeah, and we gon' make you
Hour 3 and 9 to noon. 414-799-1973 is the phone number. John Kuhn, Armin Sari, and I'm Billy Schmidt hanging out with you at 414-799-1973. We got some picks for the conference championship games coming up here momentarily. Your You Better You Bet picks about 10 minutes away, and a Kuhn's Can't Miss that you're not going to want to miss. And you're going to want to be here for some bad beat conversation coming up shortly. But first, the text portion of the Talking Text line. I'm going to get to a couple of calls here. But Todd in New Orleans grew up in the Fox Valley, and I became a Packers fan when I was about 6 years old. The reason is because many of my family would come and stay with us when the adults would go to preseason Packers games. All my cousins staying with us would have a great time running around without the adults, minimal supervision on nights. Now I live in New Orleans, so and they say water fountain down here, but I shake things up and always drop bubbler first. I don't mind the scheme that Brandon Staley would bring back, but I would love to see a tough guy and not somebody so blah, because the defense is about effort, about tenacity. John, you buy into that deal? You buy into you need a hard-nosed guy to teach that kind of tenacity on the defensive side?
I do. And that's why I was for, and I'm serious. If Rex Ryan was a consideration, which I don't think he is, but if he was a consideration, I would love that. I think you need a big presence, right? When we were watching Robert Saleh have incredible success, what did we see? We saw fiery coaching from the sideline. When we saw D'Amico Ryans have, this was before they became head coaches, immense success as defensive coordinator. We saw fiery kind of inspiration on the sidelines. Not saying it all works, because there's also a term called false enthusiasm or fake enthusiasm. Yeah, stuff that you can just tell. Yeah, it just kind of hits soft. And but I want a guy that the defense is. They're not just going out there with some swag. They're going out there with some swag because they feel a little bit of pressure. They feel confident. You have to take the field and not just be confident. You also have to feel a little bit of anxiety. And I feel if you go out there and you just have confidence and you don't have a little bit of anxiety, that's when a counterpunch really sets you on your heels. If you go out there with too much anxiety and not enough confidence, same thing. You get hit in the mouth and you're, oh my gosh, here we go again. So you need that you just need to be on edge. A defense needs to play on an edge. You need to find that guy that gives that mentality. I said it a million times, and I truly believe this. Joe Barry's defense was fine. They didn't start playing with an edge until the last 4 games, and they played with an edge. It was clear. It was evident. They played with an edge.
Now you need somebody to be able to keep that edge, keep that going. And many people on Talking Text line, Ryan in Jacksonville, Chris in the 262, throwback. And first time I've heard Party Like a Rock Star since I was at Ladybug Club when I was 18.
Let's go. What did I tell you guys during the break? I haven't played Shop Boys in a while.
Ryan in Jacksonville.
And it's Friday, so why
Ryan
not?
in Jacksonville goes, damn,
Let's
Armin's
go.
ready to party here at 11 a.m. on a Friday.
It's Friday. I got Shop Boys. Maybe I have Cyclone, whatever it takes.
Whoa.
Remember that one? Yeah, that was a good one.
You're gonna play Cyclone?
Remember?
Jeez, you're really trying to turn this bad boy up.
Baby Bash.
I believe that's Baby Bash. Yeah.
When John was DJing,
Moves your body like a
there at
cyclone.
Shippensburg, I think he was hitting those songs. So
Our friend Kyle in North Lake on the text line wants to bring this part on up about John Kuhn. Longtime texter, first time listener. That doesn't correlate, but anyway, feel good Friday text here from our guy Kyle in North Lake.
He's been texting without listening.
Longtime texter, first time listener.
Let's go.
Just want to let you know what he's thinking. Doesn't really need to hear about
I
it.
think he mixed it
4
up.
years ago, my friend and I met Kuhn at the Pizza Palace bar in the South, or Pizza Place bar in the Southwest Terminal, and asked him to do a shot of Jameson with us, and he kindly obliged. Kuhn's the man. Kuhn's a legend. Love the show, boys. Well, that's just common courtesy. Who's going to say no to a shot of Jameson?
Well, I think it was at like 9:30 in the morning, but yeah.
Oh, okay. That
thanks,
could make
guys.
Shots.
Yeah, it was cool.
Shots.
Oh, here we go.
Remember that song? That's another good one.
I do remember that song. Yeah, we've heard it. We've heard it a couple of times. Let's go to Mike in Eau Claire. He's up on the talking text
Whatever.
line.
It's Friday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Armin's just trying to take shots. Listen, I'm the one with no family in town this weekend, and Armin's trying to live a bachelor weekend, it sounds like here. He's trying to go party it all the way on up. He might be at Joe Cat's at 2 a.m. tonight. You might see him upstairs at Joe Cat's here
but you
tonight.
won't see me at the
Are you going to Joe Cat's, Armin? You heading down to Brady Street?
Well, I'm working the Admirals tonight, and Tesla's playing afterwards.
Oh,
So you know how that goes, John. Admirals concert, Joe
Right
Cat's.
after the-
Yeah, you're
right after the
100%
concert,
going to-
you're going to Joe
Yeah.
Cat's.
yeah, you're
Although,
100% going to Joe
I gotta
Cat's.
get up
Yeah,
early
I'm jealous.
tomorrow because I'm gonna be over at the Blood Center, Varsity at Tulsa Center Blood Center with an appearance.
Let's
Hunter will be
go.
out there with me. So
You
we
and
gotta-
Hunter giving blood tomorrow?
doesn't mean we can't still stay out late or
Yeah.
whatever. But
You giving blood tomorrow?
I don't know if I'm gonna be doing it. I'm gonna be there
Incentivizing listeners to give
welcoming
blood.
listeners and thanking them and saying hi to everybody who
I
is
can
giving
volunteer
blood.
as tribute for you. I can come on over there and give some blood. I got a few extra
I
pints
think
to
you
give
got to
away.
lead the way, Armin. I think you got to drop some blood off if you're going to
That's what I would think.
inspire the people to do it.
I know, and it's a good
you
thing,
gotta,
and we
you
need
gotta
blood.
be that fiery defensive coordinator over there. You know,
You gotta
show
be
that
some
you.
emotion.
I get it, and no, don't get me wrong, and you make a good point. I had I kind of had a bad experience a long time.
You're
ago.
nervous about the knee.
Once when I think I gave it once. I tried to, and I couldn't get it.
I used to
passed
play
out.
the blood drive like a fiddle at Whitnell High School, where I would set up right around like 8:30 in the morning, right when period 2 would start, John, and I would do the double red, right? Because the fat kids, you could take the blood out, cycle out all the red blood cells, pump it back in, get more red blood cells, right? So it takes a little bit longer. So I would do that one. That would take about 45 minutes.
You miss a class?
Take a nap right on out there, right? Because they say you got to take it easy, right? So take a couple of snacks, go back right around lunchtime, and by about 5th period, man, your boy had a really bad headache. I think I'm gonna have to go down there and just get checked on out. That was a good 2-hour nap, and then school was over. So I like that. I mean,
That was nice.
it worked out. It was always a free day off. Mike is in Eau Claire. He's up on the talking text line after that fantastic interlude. For some reason, that I felt everybody needed to know. Mike, you're up on the talking text line. What's going on, dude?
Hey, I'm like 65 and I'm from Wisconsin. I kind of remember the Ice Bowl. I remember my first 2 big Packers were John Brock. He did in MacArthur Lane. I just love the Packers, you know. And
There we go.
when they got beat by Carolina, I was calling for Barry. I was like, he's a cancer. We got to get rid of this guy. And I because I'm an owner, I stopped and looked at it. I kind of paid attention, and I kind of think we might have shot ourselves in the foot a little bit. Barry did pretty good. You want to be good at the end of the year. Who cares about the first couple of weeks? It seems like towards the end of the year, he had these guys playing pretty well. I agree with John, though. If we get a defensive coordinator, I would like a Buddy Ryan type, mean, stomping. I want that kind of presence because Matt is calm enough. He's got that calm demeanor
Sure.
about him.
So you want the counterbalance.
out there.
Okay.
Yeah, I want the
He wants
counterbalance.
the yang with the
I
yin.
appreciate that, Mike. Now, I mean, I would argue that my man Matt not very calm on 3rd down when he's cranking up the crowd. Come on, let's get loud. Come on.
Well,
My
that's when
man's
the
always
defense
trying to
is on the
fire
field.
everybody on up when
It's when
defense on the field.
Yeah, when the
Come on,
defense is on the
let's go.
field,
Come
he's
on,
doing
get
well.
loud.
Two things there. We did almost lose to Carolina. We didn't lose to them, and we absolutely are getting a defense coordinator. There's no if in that. We are absolutely getting that done. But I'm with them. I'm with these guys. Let's get somebody just all kinds of alpha, just beating on the chest, maybe sleeveless, hoodie. I don't know. I'm just saying. Let's get
Robert
somebody
Saleh
out there.
breaking headsets after a 3rd
Mhm.
down stop when his defense gets a sack.
I kind of like that stuff. Other
That was
people
always
say
fun.
It's unhinged. I like it.
Let's go to Rick in Mount Pleasant. He's up next on 9 to noon. Rick, what's on your mind today, man?
Good morning, man. How you doing?
Good morning, buddy. How you
Good
doing?
morning.
Well, I come as I told Armin, I was a Packer fan from conception.
there you go.
Mom
That's a
gave
long
birth to
time.
us and had the doctors cut us to make sure we bled green and gold.
Oh.
But anyways, that's not why I called. I called because I don't know if I want another older, recycled defensive coordinator. I hear a name like Al Harris come up, and I'm thinking there's something about younger coaches. I'm close to 70, so there's something about LaFleur I didn't know anything about. I wasn't sure it was the right hire. He was, according to everybody, he was a genius at what he did, and it seems to be proving out. I'm wondering if I don't disagree with you, John, about the fact that you want a hard-nosed coordinator, but can we find a hard-nosed coordinator who's younger and who has new and exciting new ideas for these guys to get behind? And one other question I have, and I'll let you guys go. I hear all the time about how when they bring in offensive coordinators or coaches and they got a brand new young quarterback, they're going to develop the scheme to the offense around that quarterback strengths. Don't we do the same thing, or can't we do the same thing for the defense, since we have all these first-round draft choices, to put a defense around them that is good for their each individual strengths? And I'll let you go.
That's a fair question, Rick. Appreciate you making it. And John, that is something that I always applaud offensive coaches for not being too rigid into, this is my scheme, you got to run my scheme, and you got to figure out, I got to get all the players that can only run my scheme, not, doing things that your players are good at. That might be a good idea to try to do.
Yeah, a couple really interesting things that Rick brought up there. I thought, number one, can we get a young up and coming guy, and can he be fiery? Yeah, I mean, they don't make rules out there. If you're young, you can't be fiery, and if you're old, you got to be crotchety and mean. Like, they don't make those rules. And Robert Saleh's not old, and he was super intense on the sideline. So yeah, you can do that. And the whole thing with the scheme and new up and comer. Well, remember when Matt was an up and comer, when he was relatively young in the play calling scheme of things and only did it for 1 year, he was running a system that he learned under Shanahan and McVay and those types of brains and those types of guys. So there's other defensive coordinators out there that are running similar schemes, and there's other guys that have learned under other defensive coordinators. Like Armin, you mentioned Seattle and how great their defense was, with the Legion of Boom. Well, right down there, Al Harris, he's a young guy. I mean, he's under Dan Quinn right now. He's got that, kind of, I see what we're doing. I know how it can be applied. Maybe I can do that there. And then the last little tip of this whole thing is, hey, can we scheme a defense? Can we use what our guys do best? And, where it gets hard with defense versus offense, where, hey, our quarterback does this really good, so we can't be so locked into the scheme. We got to kind of mold with what our quarterback does. What's tough about that is on defense, if, let's say, Rashawn Gary's best skill is just rushing the passer, right? Just rushing the passer. Well, you got to have somebody to safeguard what happens when you have a guy who just rushes the passer. Well, that leaves you a little open in the run game. That means you have to have a linebacker on the second level or a safety down into the box. And their game is predominantly to stop the run, to make up for Rashawn Gary there. If Rashawn Gary's rushing the pass, or you need to bring a blitz to get him one-on-one, then you got to have corners that are absolutely locked down. Doesn't mean you can't mold a defense for what guys' attributes are good at, but when you mold a defensive call for what one specific player's skills are, then the other player's skills have to match up adequately with their role changing as well. So that's the difficulty there.
Yeah, there's a lot of yin and yang to it. There's a lot of maybe robbing one spot to go to the other. Anthony Weaver is the younger name that's popping on up that many people, I think, are interested in. That's the Baltimore Ravens guy that would be coaching this weekend. And that is one part of the rules. The coaching carousel rules are very, very interesting. You cannot interview now if you're coaching this weekend. However, like Dave Canales, who was just named the Carolina Panthers head coach yesterday, he interviewed for like 7 hours Saturday last week, the day before they go to Detroit for the game. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for Detroit, had 3 interviews virtually the day before. So you won't be able to know anybody if they're trying to interview them, trying to talk to the guys of teams that are still playing now. That will have to wait. Let's get one more in here before the You Better You Bet spot. Let's go to Owen and Jackson quickly. What's up, Owen?
Hey, guys. Love the show. I just wanted to shout out Kyle from North Lake for not really knowing how to text.
Yeah, not good at it.
Yeah.
It's all right. Hey, man, it's a Friday for all of us.
First
when did you start watching the Packers?
I've been a Packer fan ever since I can remember, but I'd say the core memory is when I was like 6 or 7 years old watching Brett Favre Monday night against the Raiders.
Good one.
There you go.
I'm 28 years old and have been quite spoiled with the Packers, and I'm expecting my first son in April, and so I'm just hoping that he's able to be just as spoiled.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
So,
congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Thanks. So quick question for you. I'm not a fan of Staley. I feel like going with Staley from Barry just like And, it's the same soup, just reheated. What are your thoughts? I know you were talking about Weaver, but what are your thoughts on either Weaver, Chris Hewitt from the Ravens as well, or bringing Al Harris into this?
Well, the Al Harris piece, like we just talked about, and I appreciate it. Hopefully your son has a similar first year like my son did, where he's undefeated against the Bears in his life. That's a good way to start out your life. So I appreciate it and congratulations to you. Al Harris is a fascinating name. It's one that a lot of teams are, I would assume, going to interview, and we've kind of talked about him here, guys. But, Dan Quinn isn't getting a head coaching job. Does Al Harris get kind of dinged for what the Packers did down there in the wild card round? Like, does his name maybe get a little bit cooler after that? Because it obviously had something to do with Dan Quinn not being interviewed, I think, as many times and in as many places as they had assumed this year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and that could possibly be the thing. I think when you look at the total body of work, you ask yourself the scheme, and does this scheme last the test of time? Are you going to be able to apply that with the players that we have here? And Al Harris will continue to move up in the ranks because he is doing a great job, and he's a presence, right? When he walks around the sidelines, he's a presence, and he's a presence to these players that are on the team, and they will listen to him, and they will take that in, and they will soak that in. I remember kind of his last year here, and he had Sam Shields as his understudy, and he really, Sam really took off quickly because he had Charles and Al to lead him and guide him and show him kind of the ropes and the way to go. So most definitely, I think Al Harris will be a name that'll pop up as DC interviews here rather shortly in the short term. And some of these other guys, like the Ravens, when your defense is that great, like the Ravens have been this year, and we're going to talk, a lot of that has to do with the players, but when your defense is that good, everybody starts getting looks because we want to duplicate. Again, it's how Matt LaFleur got his start, because we want to duplicate what they are doing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Al Harris, we talked about it with Dan Quinn. Also, Chiefs for 5 years, a defensive assistant there. A little bit of that under Spagnuolo. So very good and well learned in his coaching tenure, and also been a coach for about 10 years. So maybe he gets a chance. We do now give you a chance to win and possibly eat with the guys at Carnivore, Milwaukee's premier steakhouse, for over 15 years. But first, these two guys got to sing. A little bit of ferocity there by Armin's You Better You Bet. That's what I'm talking about.
It's conference championship weekend. We're looking for the Final Four. Let's go, boys.
Damn.
4
okay.
get through out of 9, and we got picks.
We got them right here. We got Tim in Fredonia as one of the 9. He is taking the San Francisco 49ers and taking 51 points in that NFC championship game, but he's locking in the Baltimore Ravens for his spot right there. It's the same two teams, same lock. Different score, different game for Ken in the Falls. He's taking the Ravens and Niners, locking in the Ravens, but a total of 43 in Baltimore KC. That's kind of well done, because it looked like Ken may have looked at the over-under line, which is set at 44.5 right now. Brewer Bruce taking the Ravens, locking them in. He is one of our lone soldiers on the Detroit Lions as Brewer Bruce. Total of 48 in Ravens in Kansas City. Steven Delafield taking the 49ers in the nightcap, locking in the Ravens in the first game. Steven Delafield going right on the line for the over-under, saying total of 44 points. That might be smart. They might know what they're doing in Las Vegas. If you just take the number that's at the total,
you got a good chance.
You might have a pretty good chance. That's kind of smart math, kind of like Andy and Brookfield going with 51 in the night game, which is the exact over-under number for Detroit Lions and San Francisco 49ers. Andy and Brookfield taking the Lions, locking in the Ravens. Shocking. Derek and Whitewater also locking in the Ravens, taking the 49ers, seeing that rematch of the two teams on Monday Night Football. He's got the total of 47 in Ravens and Chiefs. Dan in Janesville taking the Chiefs. Wow, holy cow. Finally, somebody taking Mahomes and the Chiefs. He is locking the 49ers, 50 in that game. Jeff in Sun Prairie. I don't know if he maybe mistyped this because he was going for the number. Total of 54 in Ravens Chiefs. He's taking the Ravens. There's a lot of defense, though, in that game. You're talking about the number 1 defense on the Baltimore side, number 2 defense in most statistical categories on the Kansas City side. A lot of points there with Lamar and Pat. He is locking the San Francisco 49ers. And Deviation Don going Ravens and Niners, locking in the Niners. Total of 44 there. So we have a
lot of people taking favorites.
One individual taking the Kansas City Chiefs, just 2 taking the Motor City Kitties to move on to Super Bowl 58. Everybody going, for the most part, with John. You've asked about a curse. You've been asking if there's any kind of trends that we could follow through with. Well, it's not necessarily a curse, but apparently the NFL script writers have been tipping off the Super Bowl to who's going to be playing in it, because the last 3 games, if you look at the logos, kind of have the team's colors in the mix of the logo. Super Bowl 56, Bengals and Rams. The logo is orange and yellow. Last year, look at Super Bowl 57's logo with a lot of little blue in there for the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of Chiefs red right there in the base. This year, Super Bowl 58 out in Las Vegas. Whole lot of purple, whole lot of red. Many people think that's Baltimore, San Francisco, and they've been calling for this for quite some time now.
Well, yeah.
Here we go again.
Unless you're colorblind, and then you have no idea what the colors are, right? What would they look like? What would they look like on one of those spot tests that you take when you go to the eye doctors?
Purple's probably looking black, and I think red would too, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I'm not colorblind. I don't know exactly how that rolls through.
I just think it's funny that everyone look. There's only so many colors. All right. Let's say there's 2
So
colors.
you're thinking that's a coincidence that the last 2 years, the 2 colors that they've picked,
I think it
out
is.
of the entire color wheel, those 4 teams have been in the Super Bowl the last 2 years.
Let me ask you about Super Bowl 31. Are the Packers colors purple and whatever?
That's different, Armin. That's before they changed to the one kind of universal Super Bowl logo. That's when they used to do it in the theme of the city.
I'm just saying.
And you know that.
It's just funny that, okay, so the script writers got it. Okay.
Also crazy that it's 11:23 and you have not played a Super Bowl 31 highlight, as it is January 26th, the day that Super Bowl
maybe
31 actually happened.
Maybe that was my takeaway.
414-799-1973. What do you guys think? You liking the fact that most people are just going straight chalk here with the money line parlay of Niners and Ravens?
Go ahead, John. What's your take on this?
But these aren't money lines. These are the odds, right? These are the Lions giving up. What is it now? 6.5, 7?
7.5. They're getting 7.5. Getting 7.5.
So the Lions getting 7.5. I think both these games are going to be close. And if the Ravens win by a field goal, the Chiefs are victorious, and you better you bet, even though they don't make the playoffs. I would still put the Ravens in the Super Bowl for your color wheel, Billy. And the 49ers, I mean, if it's 7.5, they could win by a touchdown. And you still have the Lions winning on that side. And you better you bet. That's where these lines get so interesting. I do think that both these games are close. I do think the numbers are pretty accurate here. And I do have the 49ers winning the ball game. But I have to say, I think the Lions might cover this. And then on the other side, I think Baltimore is going to win that game. I could see Kansas City losing by 3. But I could also see that's the one game. That's the one that I could see Baltimore pulling away late and winning this thing by 8, 9, 10, something like that.
Yeah, and I could see that messing a whole lot of teasers for a whole lot of people up. A lot of teasers probably being played at Potawatomi Hotel and Casino.
The man can't miss. Time now for Coons Can't Miss. Presented by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Bet big, bet bull.
It is time for another Can't Miss presented by Potawatomi Casino Hotel Sportsbook. If you've never been there, just trust us. Make your way down there this weekend, preferably Sunday, right around 12:30. I know you'll see Billy there. You might even see Armin there. Armin will probably be on the second level on the skywalk, just past the metal detectors, hitting that kiosk up. I can't imagine he's allowed to stay out all day long. Laura's not going to allow that to happen, so he's going to be just at the kiosk, punching for like an hour, just punching stuff in for an hour, trying to find a way that he could get a safety parlay here in 2 games, see if he can't make a couple pennies back.
They should do that.
On that bet. Billy will be down at the temporary sports book. That's the old Fire Pit Sports Bar and Grill. 30 big screens, a full bar with food and beverage service and plenty of seating. That's the place to actually be to watch these games, because it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy, and it's going to be a heck of an atmosphere down there at Potawatomi. All right, before I make my pick for this weekend's NFL games, let's go back. We had 2 tickets. We had an unused ticket from Tuesday, and we had a ticket last night. So Tuesday's ticket, Novak Djokovic and Sinner,
Yannick Sinner,
under 40.5 total games in that one. In fact, did come under a different winner. I didn't anticipate Sinner winning this one, although all the analytics said Sinner on a hard court, Armin, would pull this one off. But Sinner did pull it off, and it stayed under 40.5 total games. It went 37 total. That's a W. Then last night, Hawaii, Santa Barbara, over 136.5. We picked that one specifically because that was a really low line for the point spread. That was -5 there. We like that. Plus, your boy Ken Palm actually came through and was right for once. He picked 139. It finished at 139. That's a dub also. That's 2-0 yesterday's tickets.
2-0. You cashed 111, 83, and 5 now, John. You're getting closer to that magic 30 over 500 mark. Let's see if you can grab it.
And he cursed me.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no chance you win.
See, that's a good excuse if you lose now. What a match that was the last night. Djokovic Sinner. Yeah, there was competing trends there. Yannick Sinner finally had his moment on the hard court outdoors. Novak Djokovic had won 33 matches in a row at the Aussie. But I was telling you guys, I had a feeling about Sinner. Of course, I didn't back it up with a ticket. I wish I did. But congrats to Yannick Sinner, who now has a chance to win the Grand Slam at the age of 22. And yeah, so good. 2 big wins for you, John. You have a chance to go for 4 in a row here.
All right, this is what I'm going to do. If
5 in a row, sorry.
If you look at the over-under in passing yards with the Baltimore and the Kansas City Chiefs game, you got Lamar Jackson sitting at 208.5 passing yards. You got Patrick Mahomes at 241.5 passing yards. I think they're both going to hit those numbers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add Patrick Mahomes' rushing yards in, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to scramble a whole lot. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot of yards when he does scramble against this Baltimore defense. I think Roquan Smith's going to be all over that mess when he tries to do it. And I'm going to tack those rushing yards on and have a total passing and rushing yards by Patrick Mahomes at 274.5. And I'm going under that. I'm going to add the rushing yards that Patrick Mahomes is not going to get. I'm going to add that to his passing yards that he is going to get. But I'm going to go under total passing and rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes, 274.5.
All right, John, you're in. Let's go for 5 in a row. I'm sorry, I was wrong. 5 in a row.
Yeah, you're trying to cheat him on that one.
Not
right
trying to.
What are you
My
doing?
mistake. Yeah, sorry about that.
Goodness gracious. Play at 414-799-1973. Way late for a timeout here. It's 9 to noon on the game. Armin said, "Don't tempt me with a good time. I'll play it. I'll set this party off right.
I set the mood,
dude. Absolutely set up the mood, and it's going to be a mood all along as we're going to know the two teams back in here on Monday who are playing for the Super Bowl and are going to have themselves a trip to Las Vegas. Really, the more and more I've thought about it, what a dream come true it would have been to get 2 comp trips to Las Vegas to cover the Green Bay Packers in one football season.
Yeah, huh?
I mean, that's outrageous. Like the thought that would actually happen.
Crazy.
We were this close to potentially doing it instead. Now it could be friends from the Motor City Kitties and 97 won the ticket that are going to go on out to Sin City and represent. We've gotten a lot of conversation, guys, today about the age of the defensive coordinator potentially coming on. And we just got a caller that asked us about it. I believe it was Rick. I might be getting his name wrong here. But wanting a younger guy with more passion, more fire to be the defensive coordinator. This is kind of coming up in the head coaching ranks, right? Like Bill Belichick yesterday gets passed up for Raheem Morris to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I think Raheem Morris is fantastic coach, and that makes a ton of sense. I was wondering when he was going to get another job. He was yesterday when John asked us, name one guy that you know won't get the job, but you would love to have get the job. Raheem Morris was my guy there as the dude that has coordinated the Rams defense for the last 3 years after Brandon Staley left, then won a Super Bowl and has had them in contention 2 of the last 3 years. But Belichick, 72 years old, really only had a couple of interviews. He gets a second interview in Atlanta. Personally, I don't know what you're interviewing Bill Belichick for a second time for. Like you already know if you want Bill Belichick as your head coach or not. There's nothing he's going to say in the second interview that's going to change your opinion on the first one. But I just wonder if it was just too rich for their blood, like the Alfredo sauce, like Ted Lasso would say, guys, a little too rich for my blood. The thought that you had to make potentially Belichick your head coach and overall personnel decision maker if you wanted him for one or the other. Some guys have said that they think teams want him just as a front office guy. But, John, I don't think it's the fact that Bill Belichick is too old to be coaching football players right now. I just think that it's a tough ask for a team to overhaul their entire organizational structure for a guy that really is probably only going to be there for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, here's the deal. You got to look at Bill Belichick and you got to say, what are you in it for, right? And if he and I'm going to flip the script, Billy. What if he doesn't want to coach just 3 or 4 more years? What if that's not a plan of his? What if it's not just to beat Don Shula on the all-time winning mark? What if Bill Belichick went in the second interview and they were like, so how long do you want to do this? Like, we're trying to set up timelines here and get this thing started. He's like, well, I don't know. I just like coaching. I'll do it for as long as you guys will let me do it.
Sure.
And then Atlanta has to start asking himself, okay, well, maybe he doesn't want to just do it for 2 or 3 years. Maybe he doesn't want to just come down here and change our culture and flip this whole thing around. He actually wants to do this thing long-term. That's not our plan. Our plan linked up with the assumption that everybody else made. Bill Belichick just wants to break the wins record and be kind of, niche when he comes down here and catch, real catchy as this big time hire that we have. And we're going to sell tickets for a couple years as our team gets better. You don't know why these organizations go the way that they do when they get coaches. I know Sean Payton, I told you guys this, when Sean Payton came to Green Bay in 2006, he was told he had the job. And then the Packers changed their mind. They interviewed Mike McCarthy and changed their mind. These things happen. People change their minds and people get, blown away by certain interviews and then maybe even sometimes turned off by other interviews. Maybe Bill Belichick, because he hasn't done an interview in 24 years, 25 years.
True.
Maybe he forgot you're not the interviewer, you're the interviewee.
Yeah, that can be a difficult spot to be an interviewer for a job when you haven't done it in a quarter century. Man, maybe that's why Jim Harbaugh finally got it third year's the charm. Because he's been interviewing 3 straight years, just hasn't been able to get it. He thought he was getting the Vikings job. No. Broncos job. No.
Or maybe it was like that old Encyclopedia Britannica commercial. What'd you get on your report? I got an A. An A, why not an A+? I had too much information. Maybe they said to Bill, can we see your book? And he just dropped the book down on the table. And it was so big, they thought, whoa, we can't go through this.
We can't handle that. We can't handle all that. No doubt about it. 414-799-1973. Drop it on the table. Show us what you got on the talking text line with your thoughts on who wins and who's representing the AFC and NFC in the Super Bowl. Our final thoughts and our take homes of the day. Next, it's 9 to noon on the Game.
Shake that laffy taffy, shake that laffy taffy, girl, shake that laffy taffy, that laffy taffy.
Mr. Baseball, Bob Uecker, there, Harry Doyle. 90 years old today, 90 years young today. Happy birthday, Mr. Baseball. Happy birthday, Bob Uecker. Voice of the childhood for the majority of our listening audience, that's for sure. You playing this for
coming
Bob
into
Uecker?
this? Yes, this would be the most epic walk-in song ever at your 90th birthday party. Are
Find
you
me in the
kidding
club.
me?
It'd be amazing. But for
And I would
90th
not put
birthday-
it against Bob to come into this.
No, I absolutely wouldn't. There is
Come
not.
give me a hug.
There's no comparison to the greatest ever, Bob Uecker. Happy 90th birthday. Hope you have a million more of them. We love you. We need you. There's nothing else you can say.
1,090,000.
about
That's where
the-
you're shutting it. That's where you're
that's-
shutting it down.
that's
for
right,
him.
1,090,000.
When he reaches 1,090,000, Armin will say, "Okay, enough's enough."
Yeah.
An
Armin will have
institute-
been dead for 990,000
Right.
years, but
I just want to say happy birthday, Bob Uecker, an institution, probably the most beloved person in the history of the state.
yeah, hard to beat.
And exactly, when you think about it, just the memories, the laughs, the moments you've given to so many people.
Dude,
no, don't laugh,
seriously.
John.
Yeah.
Come on, he's amazing. We love Bob Uecker. You can't
Bob's
say enough.
incredible, but you're like,
it's Bob Uecker. Come on, John.
The profession you have for Bob Uecker is amazing.
Oh man,
I just
way too many days, way too many nights listening to Mr. Baseball on a
just-
Tuesday, Wednesday night.
We're just so lucky to have always had Bob for this long. And yeah, I mean, he's done the games. He's also done a lot of funny stuff.
Sure.
Mr. Belvedere was actually really good.
I'll tell you
know?
this, what I did at the end of the season last year, once it took a turn and it was potentially the final game for the Brewers in 2023, I went out to the garage, lit up a Black and Mild wood tip,
Okay.
cracked open a couple of cold drinks, and listened to the last 2 innings of Bob Uecker. Because I do this pretty much every year, because I do want to, if indeed it's the last time he calls a Brewers game, I want to be able to enjoy it. Like he has meant so much, and it is a little bit of a joke. We're not eulogizing the man. He turns 90 today, but he is such an institution and has been such a focal point and a fixture of my upbringing, listening to games on the radio as much as I did as a pear-shaped youth. Like he's the goods, man, and we're going to sadly end up missing him at some point. But God, I hope it's not for another 10, 12, 15 years. Like every single time he cracks it open from Miller Park in Milwaukee, that was iconic. And now he's even had to amend it. And the pacing has changed from American Family Field in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm like, that is tale as old as time that will never get old from Mr. Baseball. What a guy.
There's legends, and he's one of them, no doubt about it.
Kansas Ken, Billy smoking the wood tips? Yeah, absolutely. Way better than the plastic tips. No doubt about it. Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm old English on the 40s is what I'm generally going to go with.
And in 10, 12, 15 years, you'll pour a little out there too. I mean, you got Uecker living to 105. Armin has him living to 1,090,000.
1,090,000 is my
now
prediction.
we know where the over/under should be set, somewhere between the two.
I love that.
Somewhere in the midst there. Somewhere in the midst there. But it is like, and the tough thing is, John, like the last 4 or 5 years, there has been a question if he was going to be calling the game on opening day. Especially the home opener, because it's been well documented, and Drew Olson is really close to Bob. He's gone through some serious health problems over the last 4 or 5 years. But damn, when that mic goes on, he still sounds so good.
Comes out stronger every time.
And throughout the year this year, he was picking up the baseball a little bit better than he had in years past, because he had struggled with a couple of pop flies, on the ground over to shortstop, thrown out over at first. Like we had been battling for a couple of times, but man, still as funny and witty as he ever has been.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Mike Keller with Bob Uecker, because Mike wished him a happy birthday about 17 minutes ago, and just he had to. He put a picture of Bob up, but in the picture is Mike Keller's dome. So like he found a way to wish Bob a happy 90th birthday while also injecting himself to, hey, look at my friend. This is my friend Bob Uecker. Check me out,
Hey,
Mike Keller. Bob Uecker's friend over here.
Me and my friend Bob just hanging out.
Is
Just
that
a couple
what
of
you're
two good guy friends hanging out, watching baseball together. All right, when we come in here on Monday, what are we talking about? Who's winning? Who's covering? I got the Lions and I got the Ravens. John, what about you?
Ooh, you got the Lions and Ravens.
Those are wins outright.
Okay, but are the Ravens
covering? They win by 10.
Okay. Yeah, I got the Ravens covering. I think the Ravens win by like 6, 7, or 8. I got the 49ers. And here's a little thing to keep note of. Kyle Shanahan in Super Bowls. Kyle Shanahan in big playoff games. He stepped over himself a couple times. He stumbled, right? He did it in the greatest game ever, 28-3, and just absolutely gave that game away because he couldn't get out of his own way trying to throw the ball too much with Matt Ryan. He almost did it last week with Brock Purdy. I don't think he makes that same mistake again. I think they come out, and I think they beat the Lions, and I think they too cover. I think it's 2 favorite covers this weekend.
Man, that's going to be sad for your boy TJ Lang, who's on the Pat McAfee show right now, rocking a thick horseshoe, John. I mean, that lipper's got to go from like incisor to incisor here for TJ.
Now, that's not who I want to win. And this will piss the Nooners off on the way out. So happy Friday, Nooners, from me, John Kuhn. I hope the Lions win.
Oh, I do too.
I'd like to see it for Dan Campbell and for TJ.
And I just don't want Kyle Shanahan. I don't want the 49ers to go to the Super Bowl. But that's just me personally. Armin, what about you?
I got the Lions to cover and lose. I have the Chiefs to cover and win outright. You must be. You think I'm picking against Mahomes right now? You're smoking those tipping milds or whatever you call them, or black and mild.
Tipping blacks.
Whatever they call them. One more thing. Come out to the Admirals game tonight. See me, see Tesla. And another thing.
When I think Tesla the band, I think Armin's sorry.
Come to the Blood Center in Toza from 9 to 11 tomorrow. Absolutely. And one more thing.
One more thing.
And this is Armin's last one thing, brought to you by onething.org. If you need one thing and one thing only, go to Armin Sarin and onething.org.
Bucks made a couple assistant coach hires, Dave Yorger and my man Rex Kalamian, also the coach of the Armenia national team. Let's go, baby.
There we go.
Let's go.
Represented.
Representing.
It's about being represented.
Yes.
For John Kuhn, Armin Sari, and I'm Billy Schmidt. We'll try to be better on Monday. It's 9 to noon on the game.
Listen up, cause I want you to comprehend. Cause I'm the leader, the man, superior. I take care of ya and then you get